Chapter 64. What kind of martial arts did she practice before? Since the moon of Xianyuan knew Ling Zhao's current thoughts, she naturally would not stop him from accumulating connections. Moreover, the girl was extremely beautiful and had a superior temperament. It would be a good idea for her to accompany her son. Although the moon of Xianyuan did not like fickle men, it did not prevent her from wanting Ling Zhao to have multiple wives and concubines. A good parent must have double standards. The one from the ethereal Dao Palace must become the young mistress of the Ling family, and no one could stop her. But other than the young mistress, it would be a joke if an outstanding young man like Ling Zhao did not have a few beauties by his side. She should be practicing the way of the sword. How could Ling Zhao know what the moon of Xianyuan was thinking at this moment? There was a trace of seriousness on his face. The way of the sword? How about this, you send her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. I have some friendship with their sect master. Take my jade token. The moon of Xianyuan casually threw a jade token to Ling Zhao, who immediately smiled gratefully. Before the moon of Xianyuan could react, his figure flashed and slipped out of the hall. Mother is busy every day, so I won't disturb you any longer. I will come to see you again when I have time. Mother, don't forget to refine a pill to reconstruct my body. You ungrateful brat. The moon of Xianyuan frowned slightly, but in the end she did not stop Ling Zhao, but there was a profound look in her eyes. 9. Holy Lord! A soft voice suddenly sounded in the darkness. Go investigate by Zhiro of the Nine-Tailed Clan, and find out about the past of the Nine Nether Clan. At this moment, the moon of Xianyuan was no longer as long-winded as before. Her beautiful face was 70% dignified and 30% worried. She had the demeanor of an overlord. Although the moon of Xuanyuan's cultivation was not the best in the Xingzhou, her attainments in alchemy were recognized as the best in the Xingzhou. The leaders of the various forces had more or less begged for pills from her. Therefore, in terms of connections, the moon of Xianyuan was no match for her. Even Ling Tianlin was no match for her. Shower, don't worry. Even if the entire world is your enemy, Mother will definitely pave a bloody path for you. Boom! An invisible flame quietly spread out, and even a Jew, who was in the darkness, felt an inexplicable palpitation. Yes, Holy Lord, a Jew has gone. Danyuan Holy Land, in the inner hall. Yi Qingchan clasped her hands together in front of her chest and looked anxiously outside the hall. Miss Qingchan, you can eat something and rest for a while. Young master will be back soon. Elder Yin stood behind her with a helpless look on his face. Yi Qingchan had been very nervous ever since she saw the moon of Xianyuan. She felt like a new daughter-in-law meeting her mother-in-law for the first time. However, Elder Yin knew very well that the moon of Xianyuan did not look at Yi Qingchan from beginning to end, which meant that she had no intention of letting her stay by Ling Zhao's side. It made sense. Ling Zhao's identity in the Xingzhou was enough to be called unparalleled in the world. No matter how beautiful Yi Qingchan was, she was just a person from the Four Desolate Lands. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Qingchan, what are you doing standing here? The space trembled quietly, and Ling Zhao's figure instantly appeared in the hall. Seeing the nervousness in Yi Qingchan's eyes, Ling Zhao was obviously stunned. What's wrong? Haven't you been looking forward to coming to the Xingzhou? Why are you unhappy now that you are here? Young master, did that senior say something? Yi Qingchan blushed and lowered her head shyly. Senior? Oh, are you talking about my mother? Ling Zhao immediately understood what Yi Qingchan was worried about, and a smile rose from the corners of his mouth. Little fool, of course Mother praised you a lot, but I haven't seen her in a long time, so we had a few private conversations. Really? Senior praised me? Hee, young master, what did Senior praise me about? The haze on Yi Qingchan's face was swept away, and a brilliant smile blossomed on her face. Qingchan, there's something I want to discuss with you. Ling Zhao's tone suddenly became serious, and Elder Een wisely disappeared from the spot. Young master, what's the matter? Yi Qingchan was a little disappointed, and her expression became uneasy again. Although she was a heaven's pride in the northern desolate lands, in the Xingzhou, she was even less than an ant. In particular, when the young master's mother had looked at her, she had felt a pressure that she had never felt before. That kind of terrifying pressure that was like the might of the heavens almost caused Yi Qingchan to lose her mind. A single look was enough to decide a person's life or death. What kind of terrifying cultivation was this? The Xingzhou was indeed terrifying. Don't be nervous, I just want to discuss with you. Ling Xiao tried his best to make his tone as gentle as possible, afraid that he would make Yi Qingchan feel uneasy. You see, you practice the sword path, I practice the demonic path, and my mother's sect is a pill sect, so neither is suitable for you to practice. Therefore, I want to send you to another ancient sect that practices the sword path, so that you can raise your cultivation faster. What do you think? Ling Xiao let out a bitter laugh. He really couldn't bear to abandon Yi Qingchan when they had just arrived in the Xingzhou. However, what he was about to do next was far too dangerous. Ling Xiao would be able to relax if he could settle her down as soon as possible. So, young master, love will disappear, right? Sure enough, a trace of sadness flashed across Yi Qingchan's pretty face. She looked at Ling Xiao with teary eyes, looking rather pitiful. How could that be? I just want you to grow faster so that we can be together every day. I have too many enemies in the Xingzhou, and there are many things that I need to deal with. Qingchan, can you trust me? Ling Xiao reached out and hugged Yi Qingchan in his arms, comforting her softly. I trust you, young master. You won't abandon me. Yes, the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect is one of the strongest sword sects in the eastern border of the Xingzhou. Their sect master, Duan Wuyong, has already stepped into the Emperor realm. Qingchan, go and cultivate well. I will visit you when I have time. Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment, then a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. Qingchan, open your mind. I will give you something. Ah? Young master. Yi Qingchan was slightly taken aback. At that moment, a dark green luster suddenly appeared in Ling Xiao's eyes. At the same time, the space in the entire hall seemed to be shattered by an unparalleled sword intent. Yi Qingchan was dumbfounded as she watched the wisp of green light enter her sea of consciousness. The next moment, her delicate body suddenly trembled. Qingchan, this is a wisp of sword Tao principle. Fuse with it carefully. Don't be impatient. But before Ling Xiao could finish his words, the dark light on Yi Qingchan's body suddenly flourished. A monstrous sword intense soared into the sky, creating a 100-foot-long crack on the roof of the hall. She fused with it just like that? Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment, then a look of realization flashed across his eyes. She was indeed a reincarnator with innate wisdom. Even if Yi Qingchan had not fully awakened her memories, her understanding of the origin of Tao principles was incomparable to that of ordinary people. Well, in this way she would definitely be valued more when she joined the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Chapter 65. Yi Qingchan stood in place with her beautiful eyes closed. Sword intent surged around her, and soon she attracted countless prying eyes. The moon of Xianyuan had already appeared outside the main hall. He looked at the girl in green with a thoughtful expression. The power of Tao Law. Even among the famous geniuses of the Xingzhou continent, few could comprehend and fuse it. But this girl from the lower world had actually fused with a wisp of Tao Law. Looks like my son has good taste. Yi Qingchan suddenly opened her beautiful eyes, which seemed to contain endless ice and snow. A wisp of coldness mixed with unparalleled sharpness instantly surged out. Even Ling Xiao could not help but frown slightly. Demonic light flickered around his body, and only then did he manage to block that strange power. Sir, what's wrong? Are you okay? The coldness in Yi Qingchan's eyes gradually dissipated. She glanced at the messy main hall, and her expression suddenly became a little confused. "I'm fine." Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. He looked up at his mother. "Qingchan, how do you feel?" To be honest, Ling Xiao had long known that Yi Qingchan's identity was special, but he did not expect her to be able to fuse with a Dao law so quickly. Moreover, her luck value had already reached 1,000 points. It was obvious that she was slowly waking up. But Ling Xiao did not know what she would become in the end. "I'm fine. It's just, Yi Qingchan hesitated. Finally, she seemed to have made up her mind. She looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Sir, sometimes I feel like I'm another person. There seems to be a very terrifying power in my body that I can't control at all. That's because you're not strong enough. When your cultivation reaches the Paong stage, perhaps all the mysteries will be solved." Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. This was the first time Yi Qingchan had taken the initiative to mention Su Hui to him. It was obvious that this girl had completely let down her guard against him. "Don't worry. No matter what happens, I will be by your side." "Me too. Young master, I will definitely work hard to cultivate so that I can be by your side sooner." Yi Qingchan bit her red lips tightly, and her eyes were filled with unwavering determination. She had already thought it through. Even if she was by young master's side now, she would at most be a burden. Only with sufficient strength could they accompany the young master to roam the world. Young master said that he had many enemies. Young master's enemy was Qing Chan's enemy. One day, when my path to immortality is complete, Qing Chan will protect young master with my life. Let's go. I'll send you to the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. Ling Xiao reached out and held Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand. He walked up to the moon of Xianyuan. "Mother, her name is Yi Qingchan. She's my woman." "That's right. I hope that one day the two of you can stand shoulder to shoulder." The moon of Xianyuan calmly glanced at Yi Qingchan and suddenly took out 2 items from his bosom. One was a porcelain white jade bottle, and the other was a golden feather robe. "There are 100 third-grade spirit-gathering pills in this bottle. After you finish eating, send someone to ask for more. This golden feather robe is a high-grade divine artifact. Before I stepped into the divine king realm, it had never left my body." After saying that, the moon of Xianyuan took a deep look at Yi Qingchan, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. "The Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect is not far from my Danyuan sacred ground. If you are bored, you can come and chat with me at any time." Thank you, Senior." Yi Qingchan looked at Ling Xiao nervously. Her pair of jade-like hands rubbed the corner of her clothes helplessly. Just now, the moon of Xuanyuan's indifference made Yi Qingchan instinctively feel endless pressure. But at this time, her words of standing side by side with Ling Xiao, in Yi Qingchan's eyes, was a kind of encouragement and also a kind of spur. The moon of Xianyuan meant that she had to have enough strength to stand beside Ling Xiao. Yi Qingchan had never been a brainless fool. On the contrary, her shrewdness was somewhat deep in Ling Xiao's eyes. Since she had the opportunity now, she naturally would not let it go easily. She only needed some time to prove to everyone that she, Yi Qingchan, had the strength to stand side by side with the young master. "Accept it." Ling Xiao smiled. His mother's help was wonderful. In this way, even if Yi Qingchan awakened her memories in the future, she would probably remember her kindness. "Your 9-dragon golden carriage has been prepared for you. Go." With that, the moon of Xianyuan turned and left. In the square in front of the main hall, a golden carriage pulled by 9 black dragons was quietly parked. A terrifying and ferocious demonic aura instantly rushed towards them. "Ah, it's a dragon." Yi Qingchan had never seen such terrifying demonic beasts. Each black dragon had a terrifying body that was dozens of feet long. They were covered in black scales and looked ferocious and terrifying. They were not inferior to the great demons of the eastern wilderness, but they were demonic beasts specially used to pull the young master's carriage. What was the difference between them and cows? "It's a dragon." Ling Xiao shook his head. Even with his noble status, he did not dare to use a true dragon to pull a carriage. The strongest person in the 10,000 demons' sacred land was an azure dragon. It was said that a trace of ancestral dragon blood flowed in its body. His dignity was not something that anyone dared to offend. But even so, a carriage pulled by 9 dragons was enough to show off in the Xingzhou. Ling Xiao was indeed the young master of the Ling people, the demonic sect's young master. He was arrogant and high-profile enough. Let's go. I'll show you the foundation of the Xingzhou sword sect. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He carried Yi Qingqian and landed on the golden carriage. The 9 dragons instantly soared into the sky and sped towards the Sky Sword Immortal sect. The feeling of riding a dragon is indeed different. Ling Xiao could not help but want to sing loudly. The speed was 70 miles per hour. His mood was, the heavy mountain range flew under his feet, leaving long traces in the clouds. Ling Xiao held Yi Qingqian in his arms and breathed in the pure air thousands of miles high in the sky. His face was full of satisfaction. This was the enjoyment that villains should have. With a beauty in his arms and a nice carriage. It would be perfect if he could have a cup of wine. Soon. The 9 dragons descended from the sky and stopped in front of an ancient mountain gate. If it were in the past, Ling Xiao would most likely fly directly to the sword sect's main hall. But now, he felt that it was necessary to keep a low profile. Otherwise, he would end up being betrayed by his friends and family. Then, he would really be reaping what he sowed. We're here. Ling Xiao held Yi Qingqian's jade-like hand and walked down from the golden carriage with a dignified look on his face. At this moment, the disciples guarding the mountain saw the 2 uninvited guests and were all on guard. They held their spirit swords and looked like they were facing a great enemy. That young man looks a little familiar. It's the young master of the myriad Dao demon sect, Ling Xiao. Yes, 9 dragons pulling a carriage with a beauty by his side. It's Lord Ling Xiao's standard. Why is this little demon here? At this moment, although the disciples of the various immortal sects were talking, a bright smile appeared on their faces. What a joke! The person in front of them was a famous playboy in the Xingzhou. No, he was a prodigy. His status was even more noble than the Sky Sword sect master. They could not afford to slack off at all. Lord Ling Xiao, your presence brings light to the Sky Sword Immortal sect. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the sea of clouds. Then, several elders in different clothes stepped out of the void and landed in front of Ling Xiao and Yi Qingqian. Chapter 66. In front of the Sky Sword Immortal sect. An old man with white hair and a white beard and black robes cupped his hands towards Ling Xiao. Lord Ling Xiao, it is an honor for my Sky Sword sect to have you here. So it's Elder Su. Greetings. Ling Xiao smiled gently, revealing a sense of humility and elegance. When this scene fell into the eyes of the group of Sky Sword sect elders, their eyelids twitched again. When did this devil incarnate change his temperament? No, there must be a conspiracy. Although the Sky Sword Immortal sect and the Danyuan Sacred Land had a good relationship, Ling Xiao's temper had always been to look down on everyone. Today, he suddenly came and showed such an abnormal side. He must be up to no good. This was the consensus of all the sects in the entire Xingzhou. Haha, young master, why don't we go into the hall for a chat? But no matter how unwilling the group of Sky Sword sect elders were, they did not dare to neglect this young master. After all, behind him stood 3 forces stronger than the Sky Sword Immortal sect. Elders, please. Ling Xiao nodded, reached out to hold Yi Qingqian's stiff little hand, and walked towards the top of the mountain. Young master is really amazing. You are respected wherever you go. At this moment, Yi Qingqian looked at the old men with terrifying auras beside her, her beautiful eyes full of splendor. How could she know that Ling Xiao was respected not because of his strength or character? It was because of his cruel, rude, and unbridled reputation, as well as the 3 great god emperors behind him. The group of figures rode on clouds and mist, and came to a magnificent hall at the top of the mountain. The hall was built with bluestone and exuded an ancient aura. When Ling Xiao and the others entered the hall and took their seats, the disciples of the Sky Sword sect soon brought wine, water, and spirit fruits. They stood to the side and curiously sized up the famous Xingzhou young master. But what puzzled everyone was that Lord Ling Xiao did not seem to be as cruel and arrogant as the rumors said. Instead, he gave off a noble and easygoing feeling. The rumors were true. This Ling Xiao really knew how to act tough. Lord Ling Xiao, what brings you here today? That elder Su's full name was Su Jibwa, and he was the great elder of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. His cultivation had long since stepped into the God King realm. But right now, in front of Ling Xiao, he actually looked like he was being restrained. It couldn't be helped. After all, she had a good father and mother. Not to mention the Ling family's influence in the Xingzhou continent, the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect could not afford to provoke the Danyuan sacred land. Moreover, Ling Xiao was also the young master of the Universal Demon sect. He represented the face of the demon sect, so they naturally had to serve him carefully. I heard that the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect has been searching for a successor of the Sword Dao. It just so happens that I've brought him here today. Elder Su, there's no need to thank me. Who asked our two sects to be so close? Ling Xiao grinned and took a sip of his wine. His foppish nature was fully revealed. Young master, are you talking about the young lady beside you? Elder Su's expression darkened. He was instantly defeated by Ling Xiao's shamelessness. Indeed, one could not judge a book by its cover. This young lady was obviously a good-for-nothing. At the age of 16, she was only in the spirit awakening realm? However, when he thought of Ling Xiao's reputation, Elder Su felt relieved. This young lady's talent was not good, but she was good-looking. Ling Xiao did not dare to arrange for her to stay with his parents, so he sent her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Well, it was very in line with this young master's style. Yes, Qingchan's talent is rare in 100 years. Your Heavenly Sword Immortal sect is very lucky. If she didn't cultivate the Sword Dao, I wouldn't have given her to you. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked up at Yi Qingchan. He did not hide the affection in his eyes at all. He was right. If the Ling family had a Sword Dao master, he would not have spent so much effort to send her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect to cultivate. Unfortunately, the Ling family's true strength was not in the Sword Dao. Hit the jackpot? A Sword Dao genius? Ahem. The expressions of the elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect instantly became interesting. They wanted to laugh, but they did not dare to offend the young master of the Ling family. They could only cough to hide their embarrassment. Fine. Do you think our Heavenly Sword Immortal sect is stupid? Sending a good-for-nothing here and saying that she is a Sword Dao genius, rare in 100 years. Are you trying to cheat us of our resources? Haha, my Dawnfall Peak already has 100 disciples. I am already old, so I don't have the heart to teach other disciples. I plan to go into seclusion and try to comprehend the power of Dao laws. Haha, I am not suitable. The 7 first seats and elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect all found an excuse to reject Ling Xiao. This was a hot potato. Whoever wanted to take it could take it. If they did not teach her well, and this young master of the Ling family threw a tantrum, they could not afford it. Haha, what a coincidence! Lord Ling Xiao, my Dragon Horn Peak is suffering from the swine plague. I am also in a terrible situation. Su Jibwa laughed embarrassedly. There was a trace of helplessness between his brows. Although the excuse of others sounded fake, there was no way to refute it. What do you mean by suffering from the swine plague? Are you afraid of infecting others? Oh? That's really unfortunate. It seems that I can only send her to the 10,000 sword sacred ground. Ling Xiao stood up and looked regretful. Oh right. Qingchan, what did you say you comprehended? Sword Dao laws? What? The 7 elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect who had just relaxed widened their eyes. They looked at Yi Qingchan in disbelief. Is it possible? An awakened person can comprehend the Sword Tao laws? Even among them, only the first elder, Su Jibwa, comprehended a trace of the Sword Tao origin and deduced the power of Tao laws. But if Ling Zhao's words were true, this young girl was not as simple as a peerless genius. She was simply a monster that only appeared once in 10,000 years. Lord Ling Xiao, please wait. Su Jibwa's old face darkened as he stood in front of Ling Xiao. Elder Su, is there something else? Ling Xiao pretended to be puzzled, while Su Jibwa squeezed out a smile. Young master, you said that this little girl comprehended something? Sword Tao laws. However, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with Elder Su, right? After Ling Xiao finished speaking, he held Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand and was about to leave. Young master! Wait! A trace of cold sweat appeared on Su Jibwa's head. If today, his Heavenly Sword Immortal sect really missed a peerless monster who comprehended the Sword Tao laws at the Awakened God realm, he would commit suicide in the Ancestral Hall without the need for the sect master to do anything. Awakened God realm, Sword Tao laws. These were 2 completely unrelated words, but now that they were connected together, it was more or less a little absurd. At the same time, it also made Su Jibwa and the other elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect feel an inexplicable anticipation. Elder Su, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to force me to stay? Ling Zhao's eyes turned cold, and the corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. I don't dare, I don't dare. I see that this girl is pure and has a good appearance. She is a good seedling for sword cultivation. Girl, this Qingke is my personal sword. Today I will give it to you. Su Jibwa clenched his fist, and a dazzling green blade instantly appeared in his hand. It was a 3-foot-long divine sword engraved with complicated runes. Young master, Yi Qingchan nervously glanced at Ling Xiao, feeling a little scared. These powerful figures of the Xingzhou continent were really generous. They would give away divine weapons at the drop of a hat. Whether it was the Qingke ancient sword or the golden silk feather robe, they could be said to be great fortunes in the 4 wilderness. As Lord Ling Zhao's little princess, she really didn't have to suffer. Chapter 67. It's hard to refuse Elder Su's kindness. What are you hesitating for? Take it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly while Yi Qingchan obediently held the ancient green tower sword. Buzz. Suddenly, a loud sword hum resounded throughout the entire Sky Sword Immortal sect. Even the Grand Elders of the Sword sect, who had been in seclusion for many years, suddenly opened their eyes and looked in the direction of the main hall on the top of the mountain. The divine sword recognized its master. Sword Tao's Tao law power. God bless our Sky Sword Immortal sect. The elders of the Sky Sword Immortal sect were dumbfounded. Then, a series of exclamations resounded throughout the main hall. Everyone looked at the sword intent that was gradually surging from Yi Qingchan's body, and their eyes were filled with indescribable excitement and shock. Sword Tao genius! What a great fortune! If a sect wanted to pass down its legacy from ancient times, it was one thing to have a foundation and a supreme expert, but the disciples were the foundation of the legacy. Although there were many experts in the Sky Sword Immortal sect, the talent of the disciples was slightly mediocre. And this little girl in the awakened spirit stage was the destined person that all the experts of the Sky Sword sect were looking forward to. As long as she could enter the Sky Sword Immortal sect, in less than 10 years, no, in less than 5 years, the Sky Sword Immortal sect would definitely produce a monstrous disciple that would shock the entire Xingzhou. With her around, the Sky Sword Immortal sect would definitely stand at the peak of the Xingzhou for the next 100 years. Of course, if they were to find out that the strand of energy of the Tao laws in Yi Qingchan's body was merely a strand of Ling Zhao's energy, then it was a mystery what sort of expression these elders of the sword sect would have. All right, Grand Elder, if there's nothing else, I'll bring Qingchan to the 10,000 Swords sacred ground. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. This group of old farts, I just told you that Qingchan's talent was terrifying, but you all ignored me. Now you're showing such an expression. Do you think you're buying something at an auction house? You won't act unless you see a rabbit. Don't. It's not easy for Lord Ling Xiao to come to my Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Why don't you eat before leaving? I'll ask someone to prepare a banquet. I have some precious 100-year-old immortal wine that can nourish the spirit. Today, we won't leave until we're drunk. Elder Su chuckled and reached out to hold Ling Xiao's arm with a fawning look on his face. As the dignified great elder of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect, he usually had a cold, arrogant, and dignified demeanor in the sect. When had everyone seen him act like this? It was especially so for the disciples of the Sword sect that stood within the hall. At this moment, their mouths were agape, and their faces were covered in disbelief as they gazed at the lowly figure. Didn't the Grand Elder always say that sword cultivators should walk righteously, sit upright, and not curry favor with those in power, and not bow and scrape? Why was his tongue sticking out at this moment? Let's skip the meal. Next time. Elder Su, please stay. Lord Ling Xiao. At this moment, an aged voice suddenly sounded from the top of the hall. Immediately after, a heart-palpitating sharp aura filled the air in an instant. Even with Ling Xiao's cultivation level, he felt a chill in his heart at this moment. He instinctively circulated the demonic aura around his body to resist the terrifying chill. Master of the Heavenly Sword sect, Duan Wuyong. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes slightly, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. The reason he gave Yi Qingchan a wisp of Dao Law power was that he hoped she would be recognized by this mighty figure of the Sword sect and become his disciple. In the entire eastern border of the Xingzhou continent, Duan Wuyong's attainments in the Sword Dao were second to none. With him personally teaching Yi Qingchan, it could be said that her talent was not wasted. So it's sect Master Duan. Of course, he still had to fight for the resources and status that he should fight for. Otherwise, it would be too easy for the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Lord Ling Xiao is indeed as handsome as the rumors say. You're indeed the role model of the Xingzhou continent's geniuses. It was customary to lick each other's boots first. But at this moment, there was a trace of surprise in Duan Wuyong's old eyes. He had naturally heard of Ling Xiao's fierce reputation long ago. But after seeing him today, he realized that this young man did not seem to be as useless and arrogant as the rumors said. In fact, his words and actions just now were clearly deliberate. His goal was naturally to obtain more benefits for Yi Qingchan. This was a very scheming young man who was decisive and courageous. He was not simple. Lord Ling Xiao, what do you think of letting this girl become my disciple? But no matter how much he schemed, it would be futile. Once Yi Qingchan entered the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect, she would no longer be considered a member of the Ling family. In the future, would he still have to worry that this girl would run away with someone else? It's of course Qingchan's honor that sect Master Duan is personally accepting a disciple. Qingchan, are you willing? Ling Xiao knew that in front of this old fox, there was no need for any acting skills, so he might as well get straight to the point and be frank. If you're willing, I'm willing. Yi Qingchan smiled shyly and stood in front of Ling Xiao with her head lowered, acting like a little girl. Seeing this, Duan Wuyong frowned and could not help but feel puzzled. With this girl's character, how did she comprehend a trace of the Sword Dao principle? Everyone knew that a swordsman was a sword. Only with an indomitable momentum could one go far on this path. But looking at Yi Qingchan's appearance, forget it, the power of the Dao principle could not fool people. Yi Qingchan's bottom line was at least the Divine King level. Haha, sect Master Duan, if I enter the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect, will I have a status? Ling Xiao nodded and looked calmly at Duan Wuyong. In this sect, the status of a disciple determined the distribution of cultivation resources. Outer sect disciples could only get a few elixirs a year, but inner sect disciples could receive offerings once a month. If one could become a true disciple and be appreciated by an elder, they could choose any elixir or treasure they wanted. Yi Qingchan came from the lower realm, so she naturally did not know these rules. However, Ling Xiao was not someone who liked to be taken advantage of. Haha, of course. Tomorrow, I will personally hold a disciple recruitment ceremony and announce the status of the saintess of the Green Cicada Sword Sect. Duan Wuyong casually threw a bronze ancient token to Yi Qingchan. This token represents the sect master's dignity. You can go anywhere in the Heavenly Sword Sect. All disciples who see this token will treat it as if they see me. Really? Thank you, Senior. Yi Qingchan was delighted. What was so attractive about the Heavenly Sword Sect? She only wanted to go down the mountain to find Lord Ling Xiao when she had some success in cultivation. Still calling me Senior. Ling Xiao glared at Yi Qingchan, who blushed and bowed respectfully to Duan Wuyong. Master, I'm good. From now on, follow me and focus on studying the Sword Dao. Although Duan Wuyong was smiling, he still felt that something was wrong. No matter how he looked at it, this little disciple did not look like she really wanted to enter the Heavenly Sword Sect. Forget it. Now that she was still mortal, it was normal for her to have some distracting thoughts. As long as she followed him, Duan Wuyong was confident that in a few years, he would teach her to become a peerless genius who only cared about the sword. Chapter 68. Lord Ling Xiao, it's getting late. Why don't you stay here for the night and leave after watching my Sky Sword Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony tomorrow? Duan Wuyong said politely. Of course, he couldn't wait for this little devil to leave. For some reason, he felt uncomfortable when he saw Ling Xiao. This had nothing to do with cultivation or identity. He just felt that there was nothing good about this kid. Since that's the case, I'll reluctantly rest in your sect for the night. As for the disciple recruitment ceremony, I won't participate as an outsider. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. It wasn't that he didn't want to participate, but there was a reckless person in the Myriad Dao Demon sect waiting for him to deal with tomorrow. Shameless. Too shameless. The eyes of the Sword Sect elders trembled as they looked at Ling Xiao with disdain. Reluctantly, how dare he say that? This kid's shamelessness was indeed verified by the entire Xingzhou. Oh, by the way, Elder Su, you said something about 100-year-old immortal wine that can refresh one's mind and resist fatigue. When do you think we should start? I'm indeed a little tired after sending Qingchan all the way here. Hearing this, the Sky Sword Sect's first elder almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was too careless. Today, not only did he lose a divine artifact, but he also had to take out his precious wine. The problem was that he didn't succeed in becoming a disciple. Since the sect master had spoken, he naturally didn't dare to snatch it. Su Jibwa felt bitter. But he had already bragged, and he couldn't go back on his words in front of so many disciples. Ling Xiao might be shameless, but he still wanted his face. Young master, please wait a moment. I'll go back to the Dragon Horn Peak to get it. As he gazed at the trembling figure that walked out of the hall, Ling Xiao instantly shook his head and sighed with emotion. This Elder Su is a good person. For the sake of the Sword Sect's development, he can be said to have spared no effort. Qingchan, in the future, you must remember Elder Su's kindness in gifting you a sword today. In the distance, Su Jibwa, who had already walked out of the hall, finally couldn't suppress the grievance in his heart and spat out a mouthful of blood. What's wrong with Elder Su? Why is there a sudden smell of blood? Ling Xiao turned his head and looked out of the hall with a surprised expression. His voice was filled with worry. At night, the main hall of the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect was filled with jubilation. Of course, the ones who rejoiced were Ling Xiao and the remaining Sword Sect elders. Only the great elder's face was gloomy. After drinking 2 cups of wine, he was drunk and unconscious. However, the immortal brew he brought was indeed not bad. When he drank it, it gave him a feeling of abundant spiritual energy. Lord Lingxiao, how did you get to know Qing Chan? After 3 rounds of wine, Duan Wuyong, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect, suddenly looked at Ling Xiao curiously. The entire Xingzhou knew that Lord Ling Xiao was domineering and dissolute, and any woman with some potential was unwilling to have too much to do with him. There were even rumors that the goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace was extremely opposed to her marriage with Ling Xiao. Although Yi Qingchan's cultivation level was lower, she didn't look like the kind of woman who fawned over those in power. Could it be that she had something she couldn't say? Of course, if it was before, Duan Wuyong definitely wouldn't offend Ling Xiao for a spirit-awakening disciple. But now, since he had accepted Yi Qingchan as his disciple, he couldn't let her be coerced by others. I got to know Qingchan in the northern wilderness. Ling Xiao raised his cup and took a sip. This wine is really good. Elder Su, do you have any objections if I put 2 jars on my dragon carriage? Blurg, Su Jibwa, who was already drunk and disoriented, suddenly trembled and almost vomited the immortal wine he had drunk. However, no one knew if he was reluctant to part with the wine or if he didn't want to lose face in front of his disciple. In the end, he swallowed it back. Haha, looks like Elder Su has no objections. Thank you, Elder. Ling Xiao waved his hand and the 2 remaining jars on the table disappeared. Sect Master Duan, your wine cups look very exquisite. Do you have any objections if I put 2 of them on my dragon carriage? No objections. Duan Wuyong sighed inwardly. His family was unfortunate. With the status and cultivation of the moon of Xianyuan and Ling Tianlin, how could they give birth to such a bastard? The Celestial Sword Immortal sect is full of good people. Looks like I'll have to visit more often in the future. I like to deal with good people the most. Ling Xiao smiled and nodded. Duan Wuyong and the other elders of the Celestial Sword Immortal sect narrowed their eyes and couldn't help but clench their fists. Clearly, they were trying hard to suppress the irritation in their hearts. Ancestor, if you come 2 more times, my Celestial Sword Immortal sect will be emptied out by you. If Ling Xiao hadn't really sent a monstrous disciple to the Celestial Sword Immortal sect this time, Duan Wuyong would have drawn his sword. In the end, the banquet ended after Ling Xiao had eaten his fill. Qingchan, accompany me around the Celestial Sword Immortal sect. Ling Xiao stood up and said goodbye to Duan Wuyong and the others. Then, he held Yi Qingchan's hand and left the hall. The 2 of them walked along the path of the Celestial Sword Immortal sect and stopped in front of an ancient forest at the top of the mountain. Qingchan, this is a voice transmission talisman. If you need anything, you can use this talisman to call me. Ling Xiao took out a talisman from his bosom and handed it to Yi Qingchan. Young master, Yi Qingchan was slightly stunned and a touch of emotion flashed through her beautiful eyes. At this moment, Ling Xiao didn't look drunk at all. There was even a trace of gentleness in the depths of his eyes. When I'm done with the sect and family matters, I'll come to see you. If you're bored, go to the Dan Yuan sacred land to find my mother. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and gently rubbed Yi Qingchan's little face. He was somewhat reluctant to part with her. He didn't know if Yi Qingchan would still be the same Yi Qingchan the next time they met. Young master, don't worry. I'll definitely cultivate well. Yi Qingchan's eyes reddened. She hugged Ling Xiao and pressed her face against his chest. Then I'll go find young master and never be separated from young master again. Yi Qingchan didn't say the last sentence out loud. She knew that she wasn't qualified to stand beside Ling Xiao now. But that day wasn't too far away. Alright, it's not like we won't see each other again. Qingchan, look, the moon tonight is very beautiful. Ling Xiao gently patted Yi Qingchan's shoulder and looked up at the bright moon above. After today, he would really have to face the storm of the Xingzhou. Of course, since he came to this world, he wouldn't be easily stepped on by others. What's wrong with being a villain? Haven't you heard of the saying that villains live for 1,000 years? For the whole night, the two sat on the mountain peak of the heavenly sword immortal sect, admiring the moon and chatting. It wasn't until the horizon lit up that Ling Xiao got up and woke up Yi Qingchan, who had fallen asleep in his arms. "Qingchan, I'm leaving." "Young master," Yi Qingchan's tears flowed out at once, and her small hands clutched the corner of Ling Xiao's clothes tightly. It was only at this moment that she realized that parting was truly painful. "Remember what you promised me. If one day you're strong enough, I'll come to pick you up." Ling Xiao lowered his head and gently kissed Yi Qingchan's forehead. "This is my promise to you." With that, Ling Xiao didn't hesitate at all. He summoned the 9-dragon golden carriage and flew toward the horizon. Chapter 69. Young Master! Yi Qingchan clenched her fists and looked up at the disappearing dragon carriage. She bit her red lips, trying hard not to cry out loud. "Hey, silly girl!" Duan Wuyong's figure had unknowingly appeared behind Yi Qingchan. A trace of seriousness flashed across his old eyes. From the looks of it, this little disciple of his had already fallen deeply in love with Ling Xiao. But Ling Xiao's reputation was known throughout the Xingzhou. Even the women behind him were mostly attracted to him because of his identity and the good fortune he had. But how could Yi Qingchan have feelings for him? "Qingchan, how did you and Ling Xiao— how did you meet?" Duan Wuyong almost blurted out the word bastard, and hurriedly coughed to cover up his embarrassment. "Master, it was young master who brought me here from the northern wilderness. Young master is very good to me and cares about me." Yi Qingchan's face gradually softened. At the mention of Ling Xiao, little stars seemed to twinkle in her eyes. The northern wilderness? Duan Wuyong was taken aback for a moment before he nodded in realization. No wonder this simple-minded girl would be attracted to Ling Xiao. It turned out that she didn't know about his reputation in the Xingzhou. In that case, her awakened spirit cultivation could be explained. Duan Wuyong secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the two had not known each other for long. It would not be long before Yi Qingchan knew about Ling Xiao's character and style. She would definitely loathe him. In that case, she would be able to focus all her attention on the way of the sword. At the same time, on the eastern border of the Xingzhou, on a steep, sword-like mountain, a graceful figure in white quietly stood at the top of the sword peak. Her bare feet made her look like a fairy. Her face was covered by a white veil, making it difficult to see her appearance. But her eyes, which were exposed by the white veil, were like a pool of clear water. As she looked around, she had an elegant and noble temperament that made people feel ashamed of their inferiority and not dare to profane her. At this moment, her beautiful brows were slightly knitted together, as if she was worried, causing others to feel pity for her. "Qingyun, there are only 3 more days until your engagement with Ling Xiao, the young master of the Ling family. You can leave the mountain tomorrow." Suddenly, a chuckle came from behind the white-clothed woman. A beautiful woman in a black Taoist robe stepped through the air and arrived behind her in just one step. The beautiful woman looked to be in her 30s or 40s, but her eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, giving people a sense of eternity. "Master." The woman in white turned around and bowed to the beautiful woman. Her expression was indiscernible, but it was still somewhat cold. "I know you don't want to marry him." The beautiful woman smiled faintly and walked over to the woman in white, gently helping her up. "Our ethereal Tao Palace cultivates the Tao of emotionlessness. Over the past few years, your beauty has spread far and wide, attracting the attention of countless geniuses. Master arranged this marriage for you so that you can cut off your feelings and become emotionless." "But Master, why him?" The woman in white was even more puzzled. If she was emotionless, why would she marry someone else? Moreover, Ling Xiao was notorious for being dissolute, arrogant, and domineering. He was the most detestable of the younger generation in the Xingzhou continent. Nian Qingyun was unwilling. Even though she knew that this marriage was just an experience, Nian Qingyun felt humiliated at the thought of her name being mentioned together with his. Taishang, forget emotions. You need to experience emotions to be able to forget them. The beautiful woman in palace robes smiled faintly. She naturally had her reasons for choosing Ling Xiao. Putting aside his status, the young master of the Ling family was known to be lustful in the Xingzhou continent. Putting Nian Qingyun in front of him was like sending a lamb to a tiger's den. A man who had been with thousands of women was most suitable for experiencing emotions. This was Ling Xiao's retribution, and also Nian Qingyun's tribulation. More importantly, once Nian Qingyun became Ling Xiao's fiancé, the geniuses of the Xingzhou continent would naturally shrink back. After all, no one would be willing to provoke that little demon. In this way, Nian Qingyun would be able to comprehend emotions and avoid hatred, killing two birds with one stone. Of course, in the entire Xingzhou continent, only the goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace would dare to use Ling Xiao to undergo a tribulation. Rather than one day Nian Qingyun's heart being moved by someone, it would cause her Dao heart to be covered in dust. It would be better to give her a marriage, and let her see the dirty faces of men early. You grew up in the Dao Palace, and have never experienced emotions between a man and a woman. Ling Xiao is dissolute and lustful, and has groups of women around him. You can see the nature of a man from him. Go, master will wait for your return. With that, the beautiful woman's figure disappeared. Nian Qingyun frowned and pondered for a while, but in the end, she did not ask any more questions and walked down the mountain alone. The mountain path was rugged, but the girl did not care. Her jade-like feet seemed to be walking on flat ground, and everywhere she passed, lotus shadows seemed to follow. Palace Master, are you really okay with letting Qingyun go down the mountain alone? At the top of the mountain, the beautiful woman in palace robes stood with her hands behind her back, quietly watching Nian Qingyun walk away alone. Behind her, an old woman with a stooped figure and a wrinkled face frowned. There was no aura around her, as if she had merged with the world. Chaotic times are coming, and monsters will come out in large numbers. No one can stay out of it. With Qingyun's talent, if she continues to cultivate in the Dao Palace, she will be able to comprehend the Great Dao, but she will lack the decisiveness to kill. The Great Dao is emotionless, and only when you have feelings can you forget them. This is the tribulation she must go through. A cold light flashed in the beautiful woman's eyes, and no emotion could be heard in her voice. But Ling Xiao, Ling people are powerful, and the myriad path demon sect is also supreme. But if Qingyun can sever the tribulation of love, the ethereal Dao Palace will definitely reach the peak of the Xingzhou continent in less than 10 years. When that time comes, a mere demon sect will not be worth mentioning. With that, the beautiful woman turned her head and looked deeply at the old woman. The corners of her mouth suddenly curled into a smile. I know Grand Elder is worried about Qingyun, but you and I are both women, and we have both been at Qingyun's age. If we don't experience it, how can we understand the true meaning of forgetting love? Sigh. I hope she will never understand, the old woman sighed, and her figure gradually faded. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared, leaving the beautiful woman alone on the mountain peak. Qingyun, I divine that your tribulation lies with Ling Xiao, but I don't believe it. I believe that you will be able to sever the threads of love and become supreme. Qingyun. When Nian Qingyun's figure appeared at the foot of the mountain, a young man in white suddenly walked over from the mountain path in the distance. The young man was dressed in white, and his starry eyes were sharp. He revealed a heroic spirit and a modest aura. His cultivation had faintly reached the Paoang stage. He was powerful and unparalleled. Didn't I tell you to leave? Nian Qingyun frowned slightly. In addition to the coldness in her eyes, there was also a hint of killing intent. But, although the killing intent was biting cold, it was somewhat different. It seemed to contain a trace of embarrassment. It was hard to imagine that Nian Qingyun was such a cold beauty. She cultivated the great Tao of ruthlessness, but she actually revealed such an expression. Chapter 70. Qingyun, I know that you cultivate the heartless great Tao, but I also know that you have me in your heart. The white-clothed youth walked in front of Nian Qingyun with a smile on his face. Under the sunlight, his smile was clean and confident. Standing side by side with Nian Qingyun, he really looked like an immortal. Lin Shi, don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Nian Qingyun's pretty face turned cold, and a chill suddenly spread out from her body. The world seemed to freeze for a moment. Lin Shi only smiled and shook his head. Qingyun, I will prove to you that in the entire Xingzhou, only I am worthy of you. That Ling Xiao is just a playboy. How can he stand side by side with you? A gloomy look flashed across the youth's face, and there seemed to be flames dancing in his eyes. He had naturally come today because he had heard the news of Nian Qingyun and Ling Xiao's engagement. However, an arrogant and unreasonable ancient clan young master with a bad reputation was not worth mentioning in his eyes. Over the years, Lin Shi had trained in the Xingzhou, and his hands were stained with the blood of countless ancient clan young masters. In his opinion, those arrogant people were just stepping stones for him to ascend to the position of sovereign. The engagement was set by Master. Ling people are also part of the ancient clan. I advise you not to seek your own death. Nian Qingyun took a deep look at Lin Shi and walked past him. Above his head, a black shadow suddenly soared into the sky and let out a loud and clear cry. Chirp! You said you don't have me in your heart. You are clearly concerned about me. Lin Shi rubbed his nose, as if he was not surprised by the demonic figure above him. The corners of his mouth even curled into a smile. Nian Qingyun had never cared about the life and death of others. For her to say such words, it was clear that Lin Shi was indeed different in her eyes. The two of them had met a year ago. At that time, Lin Shi was just a disciple of a small family at the border of the Xingzhou. In order to raise his cultivation as soon as possible, he and his sword had gone to an ancient battlefield, where he had first met Nian Qingyun. At that time, Nian Qingyun was already a famous peerless genius in the Xingzhou. She was also known as the #1 beauty of all time. Therefore, she had never noticed an ant-like person like Lin Shi. But gradually, Lin Shi used his powerful trump cards to accumulate some reputation. This was only to let Nian Qingyun know that there was a name like Lin Shi in the Xingzhou continent. The battle that truly made Nian Qingyun recognize Lin Shi was the battle between him and the crown prince of the Skyfire Sacred Dynasty. Back then, the ancient battlefield was in the Skyfire Sacred Dynasty's territory. Therefore, Crown Prince Li Yuan was considered half a host. Everyone felt that it was impossible for a greenhorn to be a match for the Xingzhou Heaven Pride, Li Yuan. Moreover, there was a difference in their cultivation levels. From the very beginning of the battle, Lin Shi had been restrained in every way, and was practically rubbed against the ground by Li Yuan. Blood dyed his robes red, and many bone-revealing wounds appeared on his body. Even so, the youth didn't retreat even half a step. He gritted his teeth and persisted. As it turned out, he had secretly used his trump card from the very beginning. In the end, under Li Yuan's carelessness, he managed to turn the tables and kill his opponent in one move. Because of this, Nian Qingyun became interested in him. He was determined, decisive, and smart. Despite being ridiculed everywhere, he never belittled himself. Later, Nian Qingyun's foot was bitten by a poisonous creature in a secret realm in the depths of the battlefield. Her entire body was paralyzed, and she was gradually surrounded by a demonic horde. At the most critical moment, Lin Shi descended from the sky and protected her for 2 full days without caring about his own life. Even when Nian Qingyun suppressed the poison in her body, Lin Shi didn't retreat a single step. His entire body was covered in blood, and he was already covered in wounds. Nian Qingyun didn't know how he managed to withstand the demonic horde alone, but Lin Shi became the first person she owed in her life. Just this point alone made the youth stand out from the rest. The two of them repelled the demonic horde together, and Lin Shi took the risk of being poisoned to control the power of the spirit fire to refine the remaining poison in her body. It could be said that Nian Qingyun's cultivation problem was resolved. In the following year, the two of them cultivated separately. Nian Qingyun returned to the ethereal Dao Palace and never left the mountain again. Lin Shi's name gradually spread throughout the Xingzhou. A few days ago, Nian Qingyun and Ling Zhao's marriage agreement came as promised. Only then did he rush over, wanting to see the goddess of the Dao Palace. Unfortunately, she rejected him. Lin Shi had suspected that she had never been moved by him. But when he saw the hint of hesitation in her eyes just now, the first time he saw her, he only knew that she was like jade, but when he saw her again, she was already his sweetheart. Elder Ling, are all the women of the ethereal Dao Palace so duplicitous? Lin Shi shook his head with a bitter smile. The great oblivion. A sigh suddenly came from the black ring on his finger. I don't want her to forget. Ling Xiao, a trash who only knows how to eat, drink, and lust. He only dares to show off in front of others. Since he wants to marry Qingyun, I will trample him under my feet in front of the entire Xingzhou. Lin Shi sneered, turned around and followed Nian Qingyun. Shi, you don't have to be so impatient. As long as you find the undying heart flame, you can smoothly enter the Paoang stage. At that time, no matter which orthodoxy you join, you will be the best candidate for the position of saint. At that time, even if you are Ling people, there was some worry in Elder Ling's voice. No. I will never let Qingyun become someone else's wife, even if she is his fiancée. Lin Shi shook his head, his voice filled with determination. Ling Xiao, what right does his name have to be mentioned together with Qingyun? I must let everyone know that only I, Lin Shi, am worthy of this goddess of the Dao Palace. Countless times, in his dreams, he had imagined holding Nian Qingyun's jade-like feet and sucking the poison out with his own mouth. That wonderful smell mixed with a trace of earthy fragrance made him want to indulge in it. Sometimes, he couldn't even tell if it was a dream or if he had already had physical contact with the goddess. But Ling people and the myriad Dao demon sect are both top forces in the Xingzhou. If I was at my peak, I wouldn't be afraid of them, but now, Shi, I am useless. Elder Ling, please don't say that. If it weren't for you, I would have been killed by my enemies. Don't worry, the Ling people see themselves as the most prosperous race in the Xingzhou. The Ling people will not easily interfere in the disputes between the younger generation. A gloomy look flashed across Lin Shi's eyes, but the corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. Besides, I won't kill him. All right. Since you have already made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. The undying heart flame is about to be born, and this spirit fire is somewhat different from the one you fused with before. Perhaps you can use this as an opportunity to comprehend the laws of fire. When the time comes, you can find a place to focus on cultivation. Ling people won't be able to find you even if they want to take revenge. From the conversation between the two, it seemed that they didn't care about Ling Xiao at all. But this was also true. Although Ling Xiao was extremely famous in the Xingzhou, it was mostly because of his identity and background. As for his cultivation, with the #1 alchemist in the Xingzhou as his mother, even if he was a pig growing up eating spirit pills, his cultivation level wouldn't be too low. Although Ling Xiao had the identity of the young master of the myriad Dao demon sect, there were very few people who had actually seen him in action. After all, there were so many bootlickers around him. Usually, if there was a problem, the dogs would be sent out to settle it. When had it ever been Ling Zhao's turn to personally take action? Therefore, in the eyes of the majority of the true geniuses in the Xingzhou, Ling Xiao was just an arrogant and despotic second generation. Usually, no one dared to provoke him, but once he made a move, there was an 80% chance that he would be trampled to death. How could a genius born from a pile of spirit pills compare to a monster like Lin Shi, who had experienced life and death situations? Moreover, even the true young masters of the ancient sects and the successors of the Xing stage didn't dare to underestimate Lin Shi's trump card. In his opinion, crushing Ling Xiao to death was simply a piece of cake. In 3 days, I will let the entire Xingzhou know my name. Chapter 71. Achoo! In the eastern border of the Xingzhou continent, Ling Xiao suddenly sneezed. The 9 dragons below him trembled and turned back to size up their master with some fear. Who's scolding me? Ling Xiao raised his wine cup and took a sip of wine. His face was slightly flushed. It was almost noon, and they were 2 hours away from the myriad Dao demon sect. Ling Xiao stretched his body, stood up, and looked into the distance. The myriad Dao demon sect. I haven't been back for a long time. I wonder if my senior brothers, sisters, and junior sisters miss me. Senior brother Qin Feng came out of seclusion at the peak of the myriad Dao demon sect's main mountain range. Many youths in black were running around, and their faces were filled with ecstasy. Today is the day senior brother Qin Feng challenges Ling Xiao. There's going to be a good show. Senior brother Qin was in the middle stage of the mystic clear stage before he went into seclusion. After half a month, he has probably entered the late stage. That's too scary. Senior brother Qin is indeed the great elder's disciple. Let's see how Ling Xiao deals with him later. TSK, whether he dares to come or not is another matter. Didn't you hear what our senior brothers said? Ling Xiao hasn't returned to the sect for a long time. He probably went back to the Ling people to hide, right? A group of myriad Dao demon sect disciples gathered together and sneered. Although they were all extremely humble in front of Ling Xiao, they couldn't do anything about it. After all, he was the young master of the Ling people, and his parents were famous experts in the Xingzhou continent. No one would have a good ending if they offended someone with such an identity. But to be honest, in the entire myriad Dao demon sect, there were no more than 5 people who truly acknowledged Master Ling Xiao's identity. Half a month ago, the great elder's disciple, senior brother Qin Feng, issued a challenge to Ling Xiao and agreed to fight at the peak of the Phantom Mountain. Although Ling Xiao agreed on the surface, he turned around and ran away. He disappeared for half a month, and there was no news of him. In many people's eyes, Ling Xiao was most likely going to ask his mother for medicinal pills or go back to the Ling people to prepare the spiritual treasures. However, no matter how many spirit treasures he had, they were useless in the hands of a piece of trash. As for the medicinal pills, it was indeed quite ferocious to take them in the beginning. He would definitely not feel tired from all the different positions, but it was easy to feel weak after taking too much. At the back of the mountain, a young man in golden clothes slowly walked over. His aura was vigorous, and every step he took left a faint mark on the hard green rock. Junior brother Qin. Another black-robed young man appeared in the distant forest. The young man looked a bit older, and he had a warm and benevolent smile on his face. However, his aura was even more terrifying than Qin Feng's. Senior brother. When he saw this person, a wisp of a smile appeared on Qin Feng's face, and he bowed respectfully. A breakthrough. Yes, today I will definitely trample Ling Xiao under my feet. Qin Feng smiled faintly, his brows brimming with confidence. That's right. How can our myriad Dao demon sect let a piece of trash sit on the position of young master? Right now, many sects are laughing at us in private. This time, many people are watching you challenge Ling Xiao. The black-robed young man waved his hand and took out an item from his bosom. I heard that junior brother Qin has some feelings for junior sister. However, that hateful Ling Xiao uses his position as young master to find excuses to keep junior sister Fu by his side all day long. Today, if you can trample Ling Xiao under your feet in front of her, I think junior sister Fu will also be moved by you. Senior brother, Qin Feng smiled bitterly. He looked at the brown ancient cauldron in the black-robed young man's hand and frowned slightly. That Ling Zhao's strength is definitely not as strong as junior brother's, but he has many treasures on him. I obtained this primordial cauldron during the myriad sect martial meeting. I'll lend it to junior brother for now. Junior brother, you can use it at a crucial moment to determine victory or defeat. Senior brother, in the eyes of the other junior brothers, you are the best candidate for the position of young master. Don't worry, this time I will definitely defeat Ling Xiao. At that time, the sect master and the other elders will definitely not let a piece of trash continue to be the young master. Qin Feng was very moved. He looked at the black-robed young man with admiration in his eyes. Junior brother, what are you saying? If you can defeat Ling Xiao, the position of young master will naturally be yours. Actually, I don't care about these empty titles. I just don't want the disciples of the myriad Dao demon sect to be unable to raise their heads wherever they go. The black-robed young man earnestly placed the cauldron in Qin Feng's hand. Senior brother, back then, if you hadn't saved me from that secret realm, I'm afraid I would have already died. This junior brother will never forget this kindness. Don't worry, when the time comes, I will voluntarily give the position to you. Qin Feng put away the cauldron, and his expression gradually became serious. Back then, when the direct disciples of the myriad Dao demon sect went down the mountain to train, Qin Feng was indeed trapped in a secret realm and was unable to escape. In order to protect himself, Ling Xiao used a space-time talisman to escape. If it weren't for this senior brother in front of him, Qin Feng most likely would have died. Although the Qin family wasn't as powerful as the Ling people, they were still somewhat famous in the Xingzhou continent. Today, he challenged Ling Xiao. As long as he won fairly, the Ling people wouldn't be able to say anything. I'm very satisfied that junior brother has such intentions. Hurry up and go, it's almost time. Although the black-robed young man had a bitter smile on his face, his heart was surging. Ling Xiao, although I don't dare to personally attack you, I can casually use some methods to make you lose your footing in the myriad Dao demon sect. A demon sect young master who was defeated by a direct disciple. Just thinking about it made him want to laugh. Senior brother, aren't you going? The sect leader asked me to go to the ancestral hall to meditate today, so I won't go. The black-robed young man shook his head with a regretful expression. But junior brother, don't worry, senior brother's heart will always be with you. What a joke. That Ling Xiao might not be worth shit, but his status was there for all to see. What good would come of slapping his face? The Qin family was somewhat famous, but it wasn't worth mentioning in front of the Ling people and the Danyuan sacred ground. Qin Feng wanted to be the young master? Just thinking about it made him want to laugh. Thank you, senior brother. Then senior brother can wait for my good news in the ancestral hall. Qin Feng bowed once more, and then he walked with steady steps towards the hall. Junior brother Qin, don't blame me for tricking you. I'm doing this for the sake of the sect. Don't worry, as long as I can become the young master, I will definitely take care of the Qin family in the future. The black-robed young man sneered and looked at Qin Feng as if he was looking at a dead man. He believed that Ling Xiao couldn't win against Qin Feng, but he also believed that Qin Feng wouldn't live to see tomorrow. This was good too. He would let people see Ling Xiao's cruelty. How could a demon sect young master, who couldn't win against a direct disciple and only knew how to take revenge on a fellow disciple, be trusted? Killing two birds with one stone. At most, he would lose a middle-grade divine artifact. The black-robed young man finally couldn't suppress the joy in his heart. He turned and walked in the opposite direction while humming a tune. Chapter 72. In front of the main hall of the myriad Dao demon sect. It was almost noon. Normally, all the disciples should be cultivating in their cave residences. But today, the bluestone square in front of the main hall was crowded with people, and it was very lively. Of course, as the young master of the myriad Tao demon sect, Ling Xiao should be the one that everyone looked up to. But this young master was domineering, greedy, and not strong enough. Although the disciples were usually afraid of his identity, they really wished that he would be killed as soon as possible. Now that someone dared to challenge his position, how could they not watch such a grand event? At this time, many disciples had already imagined the scene of Ling Xiao being crushed by Qin Feng. When Qin Feng was mentioned, everyone was in awe. He was the direct disciple of the great elder, and his cultivation was the best among his peers. He had a good character and valued friendship the most. Such a person should be the young master of the myriad Tao demon sect. Not only the disciples, but even the core disciples who cultivated in seclusion all year round had arrived. Many inner sect elders and outer sect deacons were also standing in the distance and looking in the direction of the main hall. "Look, it's Senior Sister Fu." There was a sudden commotion in the crowd. Many young disciples looked at the beautiful figure in green slowly walking over from afar, and their eyes instantly surged with a hint of adoration. The only female core disciple of the myriad Tao demon sect, Fu Yunyao. Even in the Shengzhou continent, Fu Yunyao was a famous genius. Not only was she beautiful, but her cultivation was also terrifying. She had already reached the peak of the mystic clear stage. Today, she was dressed in a green robe. Her steps were light and graceful, and she had applied some light makeup on her beautiful face, which made her look even more stunning. "Wow, Senior Sister Fu is so beautiful! What are you looking at? Don't you know that Senior Brother Qin attacked Ling Xiao because of Senior Sister Fu? What? There's such a thing? No wonder. Look, Senior Brother Qin is here. Junior Sister Fu." A chuckle suddenly came from the mountain peak. Then, Qin Fen stepped forward with a smile on his face. At this moment, he had the intention to show off. There seemed to be a demonic shadow following him, whistling through the heavens and earth, intimidating all directions. He was indeed worthy of being a true disciple of the myriad Tao devil sect. "Yunyao greets Senior Brother Qin." Fu Yunyao lowered her head and smiled. Her attitude was humble and polite. However, a hint of gloominess flashed through Qin Feng's eyes. He had seen with his own eyes how this proud daughter of the devil's doctrine acted coquettishly in front of Ling Xiao. Why was she acting so serious in front of him? "Hee, junior sister, are you also here to watch me challenge Ling Xiao?" Qin Feng chuckled. On the surface, he pretended not to care, but in his heart, he was already planning how to ruthlessly trample Ling Xiao under his feet. "Senior Brother Qin, your courage is commendable." Fu Yunxiao smiled faintly and looked at Qin Feng meaningfully. Then, he walked to the side. A woman who tries to curry favor with those in power. Wait until I become the young master. See how I'll toy with you under my body." Qin Feng snorted coldly. He lightly tapped the ground and crushed the hard bluestone, creating a crack that was dozens of feet long. His figure had already descended from the sky and landed on a high platform in the middle of the crowd. The world suddenly darkened for a moment. Qin Feng's body seemed to shine with a demonic light. It was as if a demon had descended. "Look, it's Senior Brother Qin." The entire square instantly fell into an uproar. Everyone looked at the handsome Qin Feng, who stood with his hands behind his back. Their faces were filled with admiration. "Senior Brother Qin, I love you." Senior Brother Qin is invincible. Qin Feng's strength had been personally verified by the disciples of the devil's doctrine. Except for Ling Xiao, almost all the direct disciples of the myriad devil's doctrine had fought their way from the outer sect to the inner sect by stepping on mountains of corpses and seas of corpses. Then, they stood out from countless inner sect disciples and were accepted as direct disciples by the sect leader or the elders. In other words, the elders of the myriad devil's doctrine might be trash, but the 7 direct disciples were all top-notch talents. Oh, except for Ling Xiao. When Ling Xiao first entered the sect, he was accepted as a direct disciple by the sect leader. Ling people then used some unknown method, and in just half a year, he was inexplicably crowned as the young master. This caused the remaining 6 true disciples to be infuriated. However, they couldn't afford to offend the Ling family. Ling Xiao was treacherous and liked to bully others. There was once an inner sect disciple who tried to provoke him, but when he was found, his corpse had already rotted away. Only his head was left, and he died with his eyes wide open. Junior sister Fu. Beside Fu Yunniao, another handsome young disciple walked over. Senior brother Xiao. Tuesday, Fu Yunniao's pretty face froze. She no longer had the cold and dignified attitude she had when facing Qin Feng. Instead, she looked a little respectful. Qin Feng's life was probably going to be over after today. And this senior brother Xiao too was rumored to be the strongest person in the myriad devil's doctrine's younger generation. In particular, the demonic technique he cultivated was passed down from the ancient realm. Its power was quite terrifying. However, this person didn't like crowds and wasn't very interested in status in the sect. He was a true cultivation maniac. So why did he suddenly come here today? Junior sister Fu, who do you think will win this battle? Xiao Tu raised his head and looked at Qin Feng on the bluestone platform with a hint of playfulness on his lips. The young master will win. Fu Yunniao gritted her teeth. She knew that everyone in the myriad devil's doctrine was looking forward to Ling Xiao being slapped in the face. However, only she knew how terrifying young Master Ling people was. His absurd, domineering, and even greedy and lustful nature were sometimes more like a cover. Fu Yunniao didn't know what he needed to cover up with his identity. But from time to time, she could sense the terrifying demonic will emanating from her young master, which made her feel incomparably terrified. Compared to these direct disciples of the myriad devil's doctrine, in Fu Yunniao's eyes, Ling Xiao was the true demon. Oh? It seems that junior sister is really devoted to Master Ling Xiao. Xiao too smiled faintly. There was no joy or anger in his voice, but it gave Fu Yunniao some pressure. Junior sister Fu, there's still some time until the myriad sect martial competition. If Ling Xiao participates as the young master of the myriad devil's doctrine, what glory do you think he will bring to the myriad devil's doctrine? Xiao Tu seemed to have a lot to say today, but Fu Yunniao didn't understand what this senior brother was planning. I don't know, you don't know? Xiao Tu nodded and didn't say anything else. At this time, it was already noon. Many disciples of the myriad devil's doctrine looked at Qin Feng with a hint of impatience on their faces. Does Ling Xiao still dare to come? It's already the appointed time, and there's no sign of him. He probably doesn't dare to come. It's really embarrassing to be a young lord. What do you know? Senior brother Qin Feng was originally in the middle stage of the mystic clear stage, and he made a breakthrough in seclusion. Ling Xiao is only in the soul sea realm. If it were you, would you dare to come? That's true. Although Ling Xiao is said to be able to kill enemies above his level, no one has seen it before. However, since he promised senior brother Qin Feng, if he doesn't come now, wouldn't he be embarrassing himself and Ling people? So what? With our young master's shamelessness, he'll find a random excuse. I just don't know if senior brother Qin Feng will be like that senior brother. No way, senior brother Qin is the first elder's direct disciple. Look! It's the 9-dragon golden carriage. Ling Xiao, that bastard. No, Master Ling Xiao is here. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the crowd, instantly causing everyone to shut their mouths and raise their heads to look in the direction of the voice. Chapter 73. Dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky above the universal demon sect. A golden carriage with 9 dragons stopped steadily in the air. A black-clothed figure reclined on a soft couch, holding a green wine cup in his hand and gently sipping it. Below, countless disciples began to cheer. Master Ling Xiao. I love you. Master Ling Xiao, long live. Master Ling Xiao, who dares to compete with you? At this moment, these disciples were shouting with all their might, as if they had already forgotten how they had slandered Ling Xiao. Speaking of which, compared to Qin Feng and the other true disciples, even the inner disciples could only receive a limited amount of cultivation resources from the sect. Once they hugged Ling Xiao's thigh, at least they wouldn't have to worry about pills anymore. Don't you see that even senior sister Fu Yunyao follows young master around all day long? Sometimes, people had to be realistic. Whether they liked him or not was one thing, but whether they licked him or not was another. Ling Xiao stood up and waved at the disciples on the mountain. Then, he took a step forward and arrived in front of Qin Feng in the blink of an eye. Some of the disciples with lower cultivations were even more dumbfounded, and their hearts were filled with admiration. Awesome! Master Ling Xiao's movement technique is like a dragon in the clouds and a tiger in the mountains and rivers. It's unrestrained and domineering. That's right. Master Ling Xiao is indeed worthy of being the #1 genius of the Universal Demon Sect. Just based on his movement technique alone, I'm afraid no one in the sect can compare. The bootlickers went online and deliberately raised their voices, trying to make Ling Xiao hear their voices. Insignificant skill. Qin Feng's face darkened, and his eyes were faintly burning with jealousy. He wasn't jealous of these ordinary disciples' flattery, but at this moment, Fu Yunyao's beautiful eyes couldn't see anyone else, and were staring at Ling Xiao with deep affection. Young master, junior sister Yunyao, long time no see. Ling Xiao stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His black robe fluttered in the wind, giving him an indescribably confident and tall appearance that dazzled everyone. Ha 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 ha, young master is still as handsome as ever. A cold glint flashed in Qin Feng's eyes. He didn't want to see the two of them flirt with each other, so he immediately interrupted. Senior brother Qin is radiant, and his aura is even stronger than before. It seems that you haven't slacked off recently. Ling Xiao turned his head to look at Qin Feng, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. 30 points of providence? How dare you use me as a stepping stone? Did Auntie Liang give you the courage? Ling Xiao had originally thought that a true disciple of a sect would at least have some luck on him. That way, he could take advantage of this opportunity to suppress and plunder a wave of people. But now, he was really a little angry. What kind of rotten fish and shrimps would dare to provoke him these days? No, he had to set the rules for them today. Haha, Master Ling Xiao's mouth is quite good, but in this world, you won't live long with just your mouth. Senior brother Qin is right, but how would you like to die? You! Qin Feng's expression froze, and a wave of demonic aura shot into the sky. He looked like an unparalleled demon. Junior brother, the position of young master has always been occupied by the capable. Junior brother has just entered the sect, so I think you shouldn't be so ostentatious for now. Otherwise, if you get crushed in the future, wouldn't you lose face for the myriad Dao demon sect? Haha, senior brother, I'm afraid you're overthinking. After all, there aren't many people like you who don't know life from death. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Naturally, he had an aura of nonchalance. Forget it, I'll ask junior brother one last time. Are you going to give up the position of young master or not? Although Qin Feng's words sounded polite, he didn't care. If Ling Xiao admitted defeat and gave up the position of young master, his Dao heart would be damaged in the future. On the path of cultivation, talent was important, and the Dao heart was important. If one's Dao heart was stable, they would be able to overcome all difficulties and achieve the supreme Dao. However, if one's Dao heart was covered in dust or had a crack, it would give birth to inner demons during cultivation and hinder one's progress. Qin Feng's move was very insidious. At this moment, many young disciples below the battle stage had a hint of anticipation on their faces. Qin Feng was the personal disciple of the great elder, and his demonic techniques were naturally among the top in the sect. Although Ling Xiao didn't fight much, he was still the son of the Ling people. He was synonymous with prodigies since he was young. The result of these two people clashing was obvious, but the process would definitely be exciting. Give up? Haha, who else in the myriad Dao demon sect can bear the title of young master other than me? Ling Xiao smiled domineeringly. He didn't take Qin Feng seriously at all. Qin Feng was in the late stage of xianqing and had no luck. Even if he didn't use his trump card, he could kill him with a wave of his hand. If it weren't for the fact that Ling Xiao was worried that he would attract too much attention if his cultivation level increased too much, he would have reached the pinnacle level with his current villain points. How dare someone in the late stage of xianqing be so presumptuous in front of him? Domineering, as expected of Master Ling Xiao. He really knows how to control his temperament. Many disciples' eyes flashed. Not to mention that Ling Xiao was a bit pretentious at this moment. However, his expression and courage really lived up to his identity as the young master of the myriad Dao demon sect. When it came to showing off, Ling Xiao was absolutely serious. Haha, it seems that Master Ling Xiao is very confident in himself. Below the battle stage, Xiao Tu smiled faintly. Although he hadn't fought with Ling Xiao, he had some understanding of Qin Feng's strength. With Qin Feng's strength, even if he wanted to defeat him, it would be a Pyrrhic victory at most. Besides, they were both true disciples, so they must have some terrifying trump cards in their hands. Xiao Tu had never seen Qin Feng use his trump card, so he wasn't sure if he could win. And as if he heard Xiao Tu's words, Ling Xiao suddenly turned his head and glanced at him. With just one glance, Xiao Tu felt a sense of crisis as if he was facing a great enemy. This feeling. In an instant, cold sweat appeared on Xiao Tu's head. How could it be? Why did that wisp of pressure just now feel like he was in the general realm? Impossible! A 17-year-old divine general powerhouse had never appeared in the entire Xingzhou. It must be an illusion. Ling Xiao sneered. He had already seen Xiao Tu and the others hiding in the crowd. Compared to Qin Feng, he was more interested in this true disciple. 1,000 luck points. Although it couldn't be compared to Bai Jishi, there was still some profit to be made. Beep, Xiao Tu's mind is damaged. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 100 luck points and 1,000 villain points. So weak? I can steal 100 luck points with just one glance? The air in the Xingzhou is indeed sweeter. Ling Xiao smiled inexplicably, and in Qin Feng's eyes, this was full of provocation. Since junior brother Ling Xiao is so stubborn, then senior brother will exchange a few moves with you today. However, on this battle stage, life and death are not an issue, so junior brother must be careful. Qin Feng lightly shouted, and his white robe fluttered in the air, and his eyes seemed to contain demonic light. Above his head, a demonic qi spear gradually took shape. Chapter 74. How many moves? I'm afraid you're thinking too much. One move is enough to defeat you. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, and there was not the slightest fluctuation of spiritual energy on his body. This scene fell into the eyes of the disciples below the stage, and many of them were instantly filled with admiration. When it came to showing off, Master Ling Xiao was not targeting anyone. Everyone present was his younger brother. You're still so stubborn when you're about to die. Ling Xiao, you asked for it. Qin Feng's black hair danced in the air, and above his head, the black demonic spear instantly bloomed with a monstrous ferocity. The strange demonic patterns on the spear flickered, outlining an incomparably complex totem. The demonic sound rumbled, and the world darkened. There seemed to be a great demon in the void, wanting to break through the air and arrive. The great demonic destroyer spear. I didn't expect senior brother Qin Feng to have successfully cultivated it. It's a heaven-grade demonic art. It's said that only those who have stepped into the Paong realm can cultivate it. Senior Brother Qin is indeed talented. This is so scary, I'm going to piss my pants. Countless disciples looked excitedly at the ferocious demonic spear that was gradually solidifying in the air, and there was a trace of shock in their eyes. Even Fu Yunyao frowned and looked at Ling Xiao worriedly. Why hasn't young master used his skills yet? The great demonic destroyer spear, with this spear, I'm afraid that even if a Paoang expert doesn't die, he will lose a layer of skin. Xiao Tu sighed inwardly. Qin Fen dared to challenge Ling Xiao in public today, so he was obviously well prepared. Moreover, looking at his appearance, he was most likely provoked by Ling Xiao, so he used his strongest trump card right away. He did not intend to give Ling Xiao a way out. Xiao Tu glanced at Fu Yunyao discreetly. The magic of love was not just about turning in circles. Qin Fen had been drooling over Fu Yunyao for a long time. This time, he took the initiative to challenge Ling Xiao. Perhaps the position of young master was secondary. More importantly, he wanted to use this opportunity to open junior sister Fu's heart. Crush with one move? Interesting. On the battle stage, Ling Xiao looked at the pale-faced Qin Feng, whose head was covered in sweat, and the mockery on his face grew. This idiot needed the time it took for an incense stick to burn to unleash an attack. If he were to rush up and slap him to death at this moment, wouldn't people think that he had an unfair advantage? Forget it, let's wait patiently. Since he wanted to establish his dominance, he naturally had to crush them head-on. A heaven-grade martial art, it does look quite scary. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the terrifying demonic spear that seemed to be tearing through the sky. His eyes were still as calm as ever. Qin Feng's talent is indeed terrifying. In the distant mountains, several old figures stood with their hands behind their backs. There was also a trace of shock on their old faces. Haha, not just anyone can become the first elder's true disciple. I'm afraid that Ling Xiao is done for. Ling Xiao won't die. Among them, an old man in a black robe with a sinister appearance shook his head. This person was Qin Feng's master, the first elder of the Universal Demon Sect, Yuan Ba. Even in the Shringzhou, an emperor god powerhouse was an overlord. Won't die. Does the first elder think that his disciple is no match for Ling Xiao? The elders of the Universal Demon Sect immediately looked at Yuan Ba with some doubts. No, I will save him later. If Ling Xiao dies in the Universal Demon Sect, it will be very troublesome. Yuan Ba sneered. He didn't care about Ling Xiao's life or death, but he couldn't let him die in the hands of his disciple. Otherwise, with Ling Tianlin and the moon of Xuanyuan's temper, they would definitely turn him into a corpse puppet. Especially the moon of Xianyuan. When that woman went crazy, even Yuan Ba was afraid. After all, the Danyuan sacred ground involved too many people, and the moon of Xianyuan was famous for being crazy about protecting her children. However, he couldn't kill him. He could only teach him a lesson, suppress him, and promote his true disciple. The first elder's acting skills have reached the acme of perfection. First elder, that Ling Xiao has always been arrogant. Even the sect master reluctantly gave him the position of young master because of the Danyuan sacred ground and the Ling people. This kid has no prestige in the sect. He was killed on the battle stage because his skills were inferior. Don't tell me the Ling people will come to the Universal Demon Sect to denounce us? Yes, a mere brat. He doesn't even put us in his eyes. His death is not regrettable. This Ling Xiao only knows how to cause trouble. If the Ling people settle it, the Universal Demon Sect will lose face because of him. I see that martial nephew Qin is very talented and has received the first elder's teachings. Why don't we give the position of young master to martial nephew Qin? The group of elders scolded one after another. They were all old bootlickers. Although Yuan Ba was the first elder, he was usually in charge of the sect's affairs when the sect master didn't come out. Moreover, the sect master of the Universal Demon Sect was also an emperor god. He was one stage lower than Yuan Ba, so he had to rely on the first elder most of the time. As long as he nodded, there was basically nothing in the sect that couldn't be done. This time, Feng taking the position of young master will definitely attract the dissatisfaction of the Ling people and the Danyuan sacred ground. When the time comes, I hope the elders will speak out to support him. Yuan Ba didn't say anything more, and the elders immediately patted their chests to show their determination. Don't worry, First Elder. Isn't it just the Ling people and the Danyuan sacred ground? Our three forces are all supreme inheritances, and the strongest people are all emperor gods. What else do they want? That's right. I've long disliked the moon of Xianyuan. Every day she acts like she's the most powerful person in Xingzhou. If she dares to come, we'll let her know the power of the universal demon sect. On the battle stage, Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and yawned. He looked at Qin Fun opposite him and smiled faintly. Senior brother Qin, are you done? I'm about to fall asleep. F***ck. Extremely arrogant. Even Qin Fun's pale face faintly turned red when he heard this. The great demon destroyer Holy King True God Spear was a technique that could only be used by Paong. Today, he intended to show off in front of all the disciples. He wanted to use this attack to get rid of Ling Xiao in one move. However, when he used it, he realized that it was indeed a bit difficult. However, he was already halfway through showing off. There was no turning back now. Especially when junior sister Fu was standing below the battle stage. Although Fu Yuniao was a bit of a sucker, her body was indeed tempting. Ling Xiao, die for me! Qin Fan suddenly roared. The demonic intent in his eyes intensified, and even turned slightly red. He was showing signs of becoming a demon. Buzz. At the same time, above his head, the body of the demonic spear also lit up with a dazzling scarlet light. It directly crushed the void and fell on Ling Xiao's head. The space shattered and the universe reversed. At this moment, the entire universal demon sect was faintly trembling. What a terrifying demonic spear! Countless people looked at the white-robed figure standing on the battle stage with awe and a trace of fear in their eyes. Qin Fun was indeed the true disciple of the first elder. Such a person should be the face of the universal demon sect, and the role model in the eyes of all the disciples of the sect. Junior sister Fu. Now, do you still think Ling Xiao will win? Xiao too looked at the terrifying demonic spear with flickering inscriptions. There was also a trace of fear in his eyes. Although it was a bit difficult for Qin Fun to use this spear with his cultivation level. However, since he used it, Ling Xiao's fate was sealed. It seemed that the universal demon sect was going to change. Chapter 75. Young Master Won't Lose. Fu Yunyao's beautiful eyes narrowed as she looked at Ling Xiao with some worry in her eyes. She was also a true disciple of the devil sect, and was not just a flower vase. In many people's eyes, this cold-looking female true disciple's cultivation was not weaker than Qin Fun's. How could she not see the terror of this demonic spear? With her mid-stage mystic clear realm, she would at least be seriously injured if she wanted to receive it. And Master Ling Xiao was only at the late-stage Soul Sea realm. But for some reason, seeing the calmness in Ling Xiao's eyes, Fu Yunyao felt an inexplicable peace of mind. She seemed to feel that young master had changed. But what had changed? Fu Yunyao could not tell clearly. Although he still looked arrogant, overbearing, and proud. It was just that, according to Fu Yunyao's understanding of Ling Xiao, if he did not have enough confidence, young master would have turned around and ran. Buzz. Space shattered layer by layer. Dark clouds gathered in the sky. Qin Fun looked at Ling Xiao, who was standing in the distance with his hands behind his back, and sneered. Courting death. Let's see how long you can keep pretending. Until that demonic spear carried the power to destroy eternity and landed about 3 meters above Ling Xiao's head, the latter finally moved. Lord Ling Xiao moved. He must have taken the treasure from the Ling people again. What other abilities does he have besides some crooked methods? Who asked him to have a good father? If you have a good father, you can also be the young master. But with senior brother Qin Fun's attack, even ordinary divine artifacts would find it hard to block it. Everyone was talking at once, and their faces were full of anticipation. They really wanted to see the scene of Ling Xiao being crushed. Villains, shouldn't they end up like this? Moreover, the myriad Tao devil sect had been peaceful for a long time. It should have something to talk about. Otherwise, there would be nothing to brag about after drinking. But right at this moment, a shocking scene occurred. Under that 300-meter-long demonic spear, Ling Xiao calmly extended a finger and faced the attack above his head. Sure! Everyone's expression instantly turned sluggish. Even Fu Yunyao's expression froze. Young master, she was truly beautiful. Was he planning to destroy the devil's spear with just one finger? Puchi. Master Ling Xiao plans to use one finger to block senior brother Qin Feng's great demonic holy spear. As expected, it's incomparably tyrannical. Do you really think you're invincible? It's over. Young master must have taken too many drugs, right? Buzz. However, before anyone could finish speaking, the 300-meter-long devil spear in midair suddenly emitted a buzzing sound. Then, in front of everyone's stunned eyes, it was chopped into two halves. On the other hand, Ling Xiao's black clothes fluttered in the wind, and his expression remained calm and indifferent. It was no wonder that since ancient times, countless almighties liked to cultivate the sword. With a wave of his sword finger, all illusions were shattered. Sure enough, he was cool and pretentious enough. Boom! The surging sky demon Qi instantly dissipated, and the entire illusory demon sacred mountain fell silent. Everyone's mouths were wide open as they stared at the tall figure standing in the endless demonic Qi. After a long while, they swallowed hard. What did I just see? Tell me, what just happened? Master Ling Xiao used one finger to shatter senior brother Qin Feng's devil spear. Are you King kidding me? Young master is invincible! Exclamations instantly rang out. At this moment, even Xiao Tu's eyes were filled with intense fear. How is it possible? That power! The sharpness of Ling Xiao's fingertip only appeared for a short moment. Therefore, Xiao Tu didn't pay much attention to it. In other words, in his heart, he didn't expect Ling Xiao to be able to escape unscathed from this attack. Today, he came here with the intention of being a fisherman. He couldn't afford to offend Ling Xiao, but Qin Feng, haha, of course, the stronger one would become the young master. But now, impossible! Qin Feng was completely dumbfounded. He rubbed his eyes hard as he looked at the figure walking out of the demonic Qi step by step. The smile on his face had completely frozen. Instead, it was replaced by a touch of unwillingness and fear. The trump card that he had painstakingly prepared for half a month couldn't even touch Ling Xiao's finger? Ridiculous, this is King ridiculous. No, he must be hiding some terrifying spiritual treasure on him. It must be. You forced me to do this. Qin Feng's eyes flashed red. He suddenly formed a seal with his hands, and the dissipating demonic qi around him condensed again. In the air above his head, an ancient cauldron emitting golden light gradually appeared. The space shook. The golden light seemed to contain the divine power of the heavenly Tao. A terrifying aura that could crush heaven and earth spread out. A superior-grade divine artifact? Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the golden cauldron. A smile suddenly appeared on his face. This is your trump card? Why does this cauldron look so familiar? Suddenly, a puzzled voice came from below the battle stage. I remember now. Isn't this senior brother Zhuge's immemorial cauldron? Hearing this, many disciples of the devil sect revealed a look of surprise. Immemorial cauldron? Fu Yunyao frowned slightly, and a flash of realization appeared in her eyes. No wonder Qin Feng dared to provoke Master Ling Xiao. It turned out that there was someone standing behind him. Zhuge Luyun? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and the smile on his face deepened. I see. Zhuge Luyun was originally the sect master's eldest disciple. Before Ling Xiao came to the Universal Devil sect, he was the best candidate for the position of young master. Later, Ling Xiao suddenly came to the Devil sect and took away his position and glory. However, not only did this senior brother not show a trace of anger, but he was also very careful and was extremely humble in front of others. Who would have thought that he would set up such a trap? On the mountain peak in the distance, great Elder Yuan Ba's old face had already turned green. Not even in his dreams did he think that Ling Xiao would be so strong. And with the latter's ruthless personality, today Qin Feng would not be able to escape. Young master is so mighty. He destroyed the sky with one finger. What a peerless appearance. No, it's an invincible, immortal appearance. Powerful, powerful. With such a young master, our Universal Devil sect will prosper. As expected of the son of God Emperor Ling and Empress Xianyuan, the elders who were originally trying their best to flatter Yuan Ba now began to praise Ling Xiao with a dignified appearance. What a joke! Even a blind person could see that Ling Xiao did not put Qin Feng in his eyes. The power of one finger could suppress a true disciple. If Ling Xiao was serious, who could defeat him? Invincible, immortal appearance. How many people in the younger generation of the Xingzhou dared to call themselves invincible? At the same time, in the forest further away, Zhuge Luyun's face was as gloomy as water, and a trace of hesitation flashed in his eyes. He originally gave the Chaos Cauldron to Qin Feng so that he could use it as a trump card. But who would have thought that this idiot wanted to use it to turn the tables? In terms of spiritual treasures, who in the Universal Devil sect could compete with Ling Xiao? Also, who was that damned disciple? He had never used this high-grade divine artifact in front of others. How could anyone recognize it? Wait, he seemed to have drunk too much and showed it off in front of a few inner disciples. Zhuge Luyun regretted it. Now, not only did he not kill Ling Xiao, but he was also exposed. No, he had to find an excuse to go down the mountain and hide for a while. Chapter 76. Ling Xiao die. Qin Feng leaped into the air. Demonic qi surged around him, making him look like a mad demon. The golden cauldron began to spin. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth howled wildly. It was as if waves were splitting the shore, exuding supreme majesty. However, his face became paler and paler, and his eyes flashed with scarlet. It was extremely terrifying. Then, he suddenly raised his hands and lifted the enormous ancient cauldron above his head. The spiritual qi in the sky turned into a wind vortex and completely enveloped Qin Feng. Dark clouds covered the sky above the Universal Demon sect. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Qin Feng's strength was indeed terrifying as a true disciple. Just this pressure alone was enough to make many inner sect disciples short of breath and tremble in their hearts. Die! Boom! The 1,000-foot ancient cauldron was hurled out horizontally by Qin Feng, suppressing Ling Xiao. Rolling thunder fell from the sky, and a storm was about to arrive. However, Ling Xiao still calmly extended a finger and waved it gently in the air. Hum! The ear-piercing sound of a sword rang through the sky. At this moment, even the dark clouds in the sky were torn apart by Ling Xiao's finger. The sun shone on the ground again, and countless people narrowed their eyes. Then, the sound of a bell could be heard. Clang! Countless disciples shuddered, and it was as if thunder from the ninth heaven had exploded in their ears. Many people with low cultivation bases even covered their chests with blood flowing from the corners of their mouth. Even Fu Yunyao and Xiao Tu, true disciples of the Devil sect, took a step back with pale faces. They raised their heads to look at the ancient golden bell that had been sent flying. Their eyes were filled with shock. That sword intent! It's the Tao Law! The power of the Tao Law. Xiao Tu's eyes widened as he exclaimed in disbelief. At this moment, all the disciples of the Universal Demon Sect were stunned when they heard the words, Tao Law. They looked at the young man in black on the battle platform with fear in their eyes. Comprehending the Tao Law at the age of 17? What kind of talent was that? He was invincible. Those words appeared in everyone's mind. Sword Tao Law. On the mountain peak, Yuan Ba and the other elders were also shocked. No wonder Qin Feng's world-destroying spear couldn't even break through Ling Zhao's finger. It turned out that this fellow had actually comprehended the power of Tao laws. Throughout the entire history of the Xingzhou continent, there were no more than 5 people who could comprehend the Tao below the Paoang stage, excluding those who were born under the protection of the heavenly Tao and possessed special constitutions. It turned out that Ling Xiao had been hiding such a heaven-defying trump card. Very soon, his name would spread throughout the entire Xingzhou. Invincible immortal beauty, invincible immortal beauty. How many years has it been since such a monstrous genius appeared in the Xingzhou continent? Puqi. With the divine artifact broken, Qin Fun's figure fell from the sky. Blood flowed from his mouth, and his aura had already withered to the extreme. How could this be? At this moment, the true disciple of the devil sect was no longer as high-spirited as before. He stared blankly at the black-clothed youth, who was slowly walking towards him. You're not Ling Xiao, who exactly are you? Peak profound clear stage. Just now, Qin Fun clearly felt that the youth in front of him was at the peak of the mystic clear stage. Half a month ago, Ling Xiao was only at the Soul Sea stage. Even if his mother was the master of the Danyuan sacred ground, it was impossible for her to help him break through to the next stage in half a month. Also, what was with the Tao laws of the sword? There was no sword technique in the entire myriad devil sect's inheritance. Ling people cultivated the great Xiantian evolution scripture. Where did this Ling Xiao get the chance to comprehend the Tao laws of the sword? I'm your father. Ling Xiao sneered and lifted his foot to stomp on Qin Fun's face. Tell me, where did you get the divine artifact in your hand? Don't even think about it. I won't tell you where I got the chaos cauldron. Qin Feng was furious, especially after being stepped on by Ling Xiao like this. It made him feel a humiliation worse than death. This shouldn't be. The plot shouldn't be like this. The one being stomped under his foot should be Ling Xiao. Sure enough, it's the Chaos Cauldron. It seems that senior brother Zhuge is still reluctant to be the young master. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and turned his head to look in the direction of the mountain in the distance. From the beginning, he felt that there were many people spying in the dark. What he didn't expect was that the great elder could keep his composure. However, at this moment, he also understood why Qin Fun, a true disciple of the myriad devil sect, had such low luck points. For a simple-minded trash like him, even if he had some talent, he was just a pawn in the hands of others. On the battle stage, life and death don't matter. Since you want to kill me, you should be prepared to be killed. Ling Xiao shook his head, and a wave of spiritual power instantly rippled outside his body. The terrifying wave belonging to the peak of the mystic clear stage rolled out, and the noisy square in the main hall fell silent again. Peak of the mystic clear stage. Everyone was in an uproar. Just now, they were still silent about Ling Xiao comprehending the Tao laws. They didn't expect that in just a short moment, they would be shocked by the latter's cultivation. A 17-year-old peak of the mystic clear stage. He could enter the Paoang stage with just one step. In the myriad devil sect, Xiao Tu, Zhuge Luyun, and a few other true disciples had already entered the peak of the mystic clear stage for a long time. However, without exception, they were all much older than Ling Xiao. Moreover, it was rumored that this young master of the Ling family couldn't cultivate before the age of 10. After 10 years, he suddenly awakened his talent and became a prodigy. That year, another prodigy of the Ling people died for no reason and became a commoner. Whether these two things were related or not, no one knew. However, compared to ordinary prodigies, Ling Xiao cultivated a full 10 years later. Moreover, if everyone remembered correctly, this young master's cultivation seemed to be only at the early stage of the Soul C stage half a month ago. From the early stage of the Soul C stage to the peak of the Mystic Clear stage in half a month. What kind of monstrous speed was this? No, monstrous was no longer enough to describe Master Ling Xiao. He was the invincible young celestial master of the Shangzhou continent. Everyone looked at the dazzling figure with dazzling starlight, and their faces were filled with infatuation. Ling Xiao had only used his identity and background to exchange for the fear of these devil sect disciples. But at this moment, he had used his strength to conquer everyone. Master Ling Xiao! Master Ling Xiao! The roars, which contained excitement and ecstasy, instantly resounded in front of the main hall. The shouts shocked the clouds and spread thousands of miles away, attracting the attention of countless people. Ling Xiao stood with his hands clasped behind his back, the corners of his mouth curling into a light smile. This was what he wanted, absolute awe. In the world of cultivation, the strong were always respected. Since ancient times, time had passed in a hurry. How many people who could leave their names were mediocre, who would care about their character and conduct? When one's cultivation was strong enough, they could change the rules of this world. If one day they could raise their feet and become a king. Wherever the sun shone, the mountains and rivers reached, even the demon venerables, devil masters, and immortals would bow down to them. In this chaotic world, your name was a supreme honor. Either die or to rule the world. Chapter 77. Young Master, spare my life. Qin Fen listened to the cheers below the stage in despair. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the battle that would make him a god would be Ling Xiao's achievement. How could he not hear the reverence in the voices of the outstanding disciples? It was obvious that Ling Xiao's title of young master had been accepted by everyone from today onwards. Qin Fen knew that with Ling Xiao's ruthlessness, he would be dead if he didn't lower his head. Young master, I'm willing to submit to you. Please spare my life. In the face of life and death, the Tao heart was no longer important. As long as he was alive, there would be a chance. Spare your life? If I was trampled under your feet today, would you spare my life? Senior brother, you've been a demon for so many years, but you still don't understand the meaning of the word demon. Ling Xiao sneered and exerted force on his feet. Right at this moment, an oppressive aura suddenly pressed down from the sky. As vast as the universe, heaven and earth submitted to it. It instantly imprisoned Ling Xiao's figure on the spot. Master Ling Xiao, since the outcome has been decided, why don't we end this battle here? An ancient voice slowly rang out. Soon after, great Elder Yuan Ba's figure appeared out of thin air above everyone's heads. Greetings, Great Elder. All the disciples of the demon sect knelt down. Especially when they felt the terrifying aura that was as brilliant as the might of the heavens, countless disciples were even more frightened. On the surface, there were two Emperor Realm experts in the Universal Demon Sect. This great elder was one of them. Normally, no one could truly feel the Emperor's aura. But at this moment, they understood that they were all ants in front of a god Emperor. You can't hold it in any more? Ling Xiao's black robe fluttered quietly. Sword and tent seemed to shoot into the sky around him. Yuan Ba's face trembled. A trace of surprise flashed in his old eyes. As expected of a supreme immortal who had comprehended the power of Tao. Under his pressure, even divine king powerhouses were absolutely unable to easily move in the slightest. But Ling Xiao's aura was not affected at all except for his pale face. How laughable! Previously, he had thought that Qin Feng was already at the peak of the devil sect. From the looks of it, this true disciple of his was truly courting death. Master Ling Xiao, the world is going to be chaotic. Our myriad Tao demon sect won't be able to survive alone. As the young master, you should take care of your fellow disciples and lead them through the calamity. Are you really so heartless as to kill your fellow disciples? Yuan Ba knew that he had violated the rules of the Colosseum. At this time, he could only reason with Ling Xiao and move Qin Feng with emotion. He hoped that Ling Xiao would give him face and let Qin Feng live. What a joke! So what if they were from the same sect? If he wants to kill me, then he should be aware of this. Ling Xiao remained fearless, and the sword inside on his body rumbled as it swept out, and it actually crushed the pressure of an emperor into pieces. Boom! At the same time, he suddenly stomped his foot, and the brains of Qin Feng, who was about to open his mouth and beg for mercy, instantly shattered. Gulp! The entire demonic illusion mountain fell into complete silence. A pin drop could be heard. All the disciples of the Devil's Doctrine looked at the figure on the battle ring in horror. How awesome! He actually dared to crush the Grand Elder's disciple to death in front of him. Provoking an emperor? One had to know that in the Xingzhou continent, as long as the supremacies didn't appear, the emperors were invincible. However, Master Ling Xiao dared to provoke an emperor god as a profound pure cultivator. What kind of demonic power was this? How domineering was this? Those who offend me, regardless of their identity, must die. At this moment, all the disciples trembled. Master Ling Xiao is indeed the young master of the Devil's Doctrine. The host's actions are in line with the style of an antagonist. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 3,000 antagonist points. You bastard! Yuan Ba naturally didn't expect Ling Xiao to be so daring as to kill his disciple in front of him. He immediately waved his hand, and a spiritual light palm print instantly pressed toward Ling Xiao's head. He didn't dare to kill the young master of the Ling family, but how could the dignity of an emperor be provoked? Boom! The world suddenly darkened. The void collapsed and astral winds blew everywhere. It seemed like the end of the world. Facing an emperor god expert, Ling Xiao was not as relaxed as he looked on the surface. However, he also knew that the Grand Elder didn't dare to kill him. With that thought, a piercing blue light appeared on his finger, and he slashed in the air. Instantly, a wisp of sword intent tore through the air, carrying with it the power to shatter eternity, and fiercely collided with the spiritual seal. Ling Xiao's figure instantly flew backward, blood spilling from his mouth, but there was an inexplicable smile at the corner of his mouth. As expected, this old thing's attack looked frightening, but it didn't contain much power. Otherwise, even if Ling Xiao used his heavenly demon true body, he would still be crushed to smithereens by a casual attack from a great emperor. Sigh. In the distant sky, another soft sigh sounded. Then, a middle-aged man wearing a black and gold robe and a purple jade dragon crown slowly appeared. The man looked to be in his 30s or 40s. He was handsome, but his expression was cold. In particular, his black eyes seemed to contain thousands of demonic thoughts, and when they opened and closed, they intimidated the universe. He was the master of the Universal Demon Sect, the #1 emperor god in the Xingzhou continent. All of you stop. Naturally, he had seen everything that had happened in front of the main hall today. However, Ling Xiao killing Qin Feng was within the rules, and outsiders couldn't interfere. Yuan Ba was eager to protect his disciple, so it was reasonable for him to teach Ling Xiao a lesson. That was why he showed up now. Greetings, sect master. Waves of greetings came from the square again. The master of the Universal Demon Sect. He was usually elusive, and even many inner sect disciples had never seen his true appearance. Who would have thought that today's matter would even alarm him? Sect master, Ling Xiao is vicious and merciless. He didn't even let the disciples of the sect go. Such a person is truly disappointing. Yuan Ba knew that he was in the wrong, so he hurriedly complained. Haha, on the battle stage, life and death don't matter. Moreover, today's battle invitation was issued by Qin Fun. Does the Great Elder mean that in the future, the disciples of the sect can't kill each other? Ling Xiao sneered and raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. The reason why the Myriad Dao demon sect was commonly known as the demon sect, regardless of the cultivation method they cultivated, was because the competition in this sect was extremely cruel. All the true disciples climbed up by stepping over the blood and bones of countless disciples of the same sect. What the Great Elder said just now went against the philosophy of the demon sect. Yuan Ba's expression froze, and he didn't know how to respond. All right, this matter ends here. No one needs to mention it again. Ling Xiao, come with me. The enemy of the 10,000 men raised his head and glanced at Yuan Ba. He waved his hand and directly swept Ling Xiao up to the top of the Phantom Mountain. Seeing that the sect master had left, the remaining disciples didn't dare to stay any longer. They were afraid of angering the Great Elder, so they all turned and left. Yuan Ba landed on the stage and looked at Qin Fun, whose head had been crushed by Ling Xiao. He stood silently for a long time before finally putting away Qin Fun's body and disappearing from the main hall. The storm had come to an end. But today, Ling Xiao's name had completely awed the entire Universal Demon Sect. Invincible immortal appearance accompanied by Dao laws. It wouldn't be long before the entire younger generation of the Xingzhou continent would be trampled under his feet. How unfortunate! How fortunate! Unfortunately, no matter how powerful a genius was, they would be overshadowed by Ling Xiao. Fortunately, they were born in the same generation as such a monster and were fortunate enough to have personally witnessed his growth, even if it was just a background. If the heavens didn't give birth to Ling Wudi, the demon sect would be like a long night. An elder sighed. Chapter 78. Myriad Dao Demonic Palace. Wan Ren's enemy sat on the main seat and looked at the young man calmly. There seemed to be a hint of seriousness between his brows. Where have you been for the past half a month? Just now, Zhuge Luyun had come to find him and said that he had been very busy recently and wanted to go down the mountain to train. With Wan Ren's understanding of this disciple, he was probably involved in today's matter. Sect Master, I went to a secret realm. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. There was not much respect on his face. After all, he had grown up in front of the two god emperors. He was already used to the emperor's aura. Oh, Xiao, how about we just let this matter go? Wan Ren's enemy suddenly laughed bitterly. He was a god emperor and a giant in the entire Xingzhou. He did not expect to speak to a Xianqing like this. However, Zhuge Luyun was indeed his disciple. He had grown up in the demonic illusion mountain. Although his talent was not as dazzling as Ling Xiao's, his cultivation had already reached the peak of the Xianqing stage. He was just one step away from entering the Paong stage. With Ling Xiao's personality, since he knew that the Chaos Cauldron belonged to Zhuge Luyun, there was no reason for him to let him go. Ling Xiao was indeed the young master of the Myriad Dao demonic sect. Unfortunately, he was also the young master of the ancient Ling people. Wan Ren's enemy knew from the beginning that Ling Xiao's motive for sending Ling Xiao to the Myriad Dao demonic sect was not simple. However, he could not refuse because of the two god emperors. But one day, Ling Xiao would return to the Ling people and inherit their orthodoxy. If he killed all the true disciples of the Myriad Dao demonic sect, who would support the sect? Ling Xiao immediately understood what Wan Ren's enemy meant. Although he and Zhuge Luyun were Wan Ren's true disciples in name, they had many other identities. They were destined not to do anything for the Myriad Dao demonic sect. Zhuge Luyun was different. He was the young master candidate that Wan Ren's enemy had nurtured since he was young. He was absolutely loyal. Perhaps this was the reason why the enemy of 10,000 did not hesitate to lower his head before him. I understand what sect master means. If he doesn't continue to target me, I can let bygones be bygones. However, if he still wants to kill me, then don't blame me for being impolite. What a joke. He naturally had to give face to a god-emperor expert. However, Ling Zhao's words were also very clear. If others didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If others offended him, he would definitely kill them. Haha, Shao, your father sent a message earlier, saying that you'll be engaged to the goddess of the Holy Ji Palace in a few days' time. If you have nothing to do in the next few days, you should go home. 10,000 men's enemy did not continue to talk about this topic. Instead, he took the initiative to talk about Ling Zhao's engagement ceremony. Of course, when the time comes, I will also head to the Ling family to congratulate you personally. Thank you, sect leader. Ling Zhao smiled and nodded. Another beautiful figure appeared in his mind. Although he had never seen the goddess of the Holy Ji Palace, he had seen her figure in the Thousand Secrets Pavilions book. However, it was a pity that the goddess of the Holy Ji Palace, Nian Qingyun, had never shown her face to anyone. Her face was always covered by a white veil. He didn't know if it was really to the point where she could bring disaster to a country or her face was ruined by her mouth. Of course, if it was the latter, Ling Zhao would definitely not agree to this marriage even if he had to risk offending the ethereal Dao Palace. His woman must be the most beautiful woman in the world, unparalleled and unparalleled. TSK. Just thinking about it made him a little excited. The goddess of the Holy Ji Palace was known to bring disaster to all races. Although he had a few beauties by his side, there was still a gap between them and Nian Qingyun. Alright, you've just returned. Go and rest. 10,000 men's enemy waved his hand. Ling Zhao bowed and left the hall. Zhuge Luyun, you'd better not get caught by me. Otherwise, how could a dead man prove what he had done? Ling Zhao smiled eerily and walked toward his cave abode. The illusory demon's sacred mountain was tens of thousands of feet high. Every true disciple of the demon sect had their own cave abode for cultivation. Ling Zhao's cave abode was at the most conspicuous place on the peak of the mountain. It was adjacent to the demon palace. White clouds curled in spirals, and a celestial aura filled the air. It had the artistic conception of a paradise. At this time, in front of Ling Zhao's cave abode, Fu Yunyao was waiting in a green robe. Ling Zhao had given her too many surprises today, to the point that she felt inexplicably nervous at this moment. Senior Sister Fu. A gentle laugh suddenly came from the forest in the distance. Fu Yunyao turned her head to look, only to see Ling Zhao, dressed in black, floating over. Young Master. Senior Sister Fu, there's no one else here. You can just call me by my name. Speaking of which, when I first entered the Myriad Demon Sect, I had to thank you for taking care of me. The gentleness on Ling Zhao's face did not seem to be fake, but Fu Yunyao's eyes flashed with a trace of fear and surprise. Was this still the arrogant and overbearing young Master Ling who looked at her with lustful eyes? Why did he seem like a different person after not seeing him for half a month? Senior Sister Fu, don't be in a daze. Go in. Ling Zhao grabbed Fu Yunyao's jade-like hand and led her into the Immortal's cave. From his memories, Ling Zhao knew that Fu Yunyao was just a plaything. Whenever he remembered, he would pamper her. The two of them spent most of their time together on the bed. However, Fu Yunyao had some luck. Although it was not as dazzling as Bai Jishi's, it was still 900. Moreover, she was charming and had a gentle personality. She gave people a warm feeling like a spring breeze. For such a person, there was no need for soul search. Just a little trick was enough to make her confused. Coming from a small aristocratic family, to be able to reach the position of a true disciple step by step, this Fu Yunyao was not simple. However, since she had something in her heart, it was easy to control her. Ling Zhao did not plan to be sincere when he saw a woman. Of course, he would take what he wanted. You coveted my fragrant carriage, wine, and seats, and I coveted your body. Wouldn't it be great to drink and be intimate with each other? Young Master Fu Yunyao's face was slightly red. She thought that Ling Xiao pulled her into the room so urgently because of that again. In the end, Ling Xiao suddenly took out a qiankuan bag and casually threw it on the stone table in front of Fu Yunyao. Senior Sister Fu, I obtained some small things when I went out to train this time. See if there is anything you like. This qiankuan bag contained the divine artifacts that the forces in the northern wilderness gave him out of respect. Although they were all low-grade, it was better than nothing. No one would complain about having too many treasures on them. Fu Yunyao was stunned. She looked at Ling Xiao in disbelief. She was already very obedient under Ling Xiao's control. Now that she saw the gentle side of him for the first time, her heart was beating rapidly for no reason. Young Master, if you like them then take them. Anyway, I have no use for them. It will be the 10,000 sect conference soon. I plan to bring Senior Sister along. Ling Xiao obviously understood Fu Yunyao's feelings at this moment. People who were used to kneeling were not used to standing up all of a sudden. However, although Fu Yunyao was only his plaything, her talent and beauty were top-notch. If he used her well, perhaps he could let her manage the Universal Demon sect in the future. The enemy of 10,000 people was right to be worried. Ling Xiao could not multitask and control 3 forces at the same time. However, it did not mean that he could not control everything behind the scenes. The Universal Demon sect was also one of the top forces in the Xingzhou. Ling Xiao was not willing to give it to someone else. Fu Yunyao was a core disciple and was loyal to him. As long as he appeased her, he could succeed. Beep, congratulations to the host for obtaining the heart of the daughter of Providence. Luck increased by 100. She fell in love with me just like that? Women are indeed easy to coax. Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile as he took the opportunity to pull Fu Yunyao into his embrace. Senior Sister Fu, why don't you stay here tonight? Okay, Fu Yunyao had never seen Ling Xiao like this. Her heart was about to melt. Of course, she would not reject any of his requests. It just so happened that when junior brother was not around, senior sister was also very lonely. She was really greedy. How could she differentiate between men and women? Chapter 79. Master Ling Xiao, Xiao Tu requests to see you. Just as Ling Xiao picked up Fu Yunyao with one hand and was about to make love to her, a shout came from outside the cave. Fuck! Both of them were stunned. They could only suppress their thoughts and sit back at the stone table. Especially Ling Xiao. Ever since he came to this world, he had been surrounded by many beauties, but none of them could be eaten. Yi Qingchan's cultivation was too low. Losing her virginity would affect her cultivation. Bai Jishi had not been completely tamed, and she was far away in the 10,000 demon sacred land. As for Feng Jiao, she was obviously a tea-girl, so Ling Xiao could not bring himself to eat her. Only Fu Yunyao's looks and figure were top-notch, and she was completely in love with him. However, Xiao Tu came at this time. Ling Xiao had a stomach full of anger, but Fu Yunyao looked at him shyly, and the corners of her beautiful mouth curved into a moving arc. Young master, there's something wrong with Xiao Tu today. You have to be careful. What's wrong? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and looked at Fu Yunyao in confusion. Xiao Tu is a famous cultivation maniac in the myriad Dao demon sect. He rarely walks around the sect, but today, he took the initiative to appear on the battle stage and watch young master and Qin Feng fight. He must have his reasons. Fu Yunyao told Ling Xiao everything she knew. In fact, she could not guess why Xiao Tu was acting strangely today, but she felt that something was wrong. Don't worry, I'll ask him later. Ling Xiao sneered and shouted towards the outside of the cave. Come in. His voice was a little low, and one could not tell whether he was happy or unhappy. It was just a little scary. Perhaps it was because Ling Xiao's methods were too domineering and cruel in front of the sacred palace. At this time, Xiao Tu's face had a rare look of humility. Greetings, young master. Xiao Tu stepped in and saw Fu Yunyao sitting to the side. He was stunned. Junior sister Fu is also here. May I know why senior brother Xiao is here? Ling Xiao didn't ask him to sit down, nor did he ask him to get up. He just asked calmly. Although Xiao Tu was known as the strongest fighter of the myriad Dao demon sect, his cultivation was only at the peak of the mystic clear stage. Even without using the sky demon true form, Ling Xiao had 10,000 ways to crush him. However, in his impression, the two of them didn't seem to have any interactions at all. What was the purpose of his visit this time? Young master, Xiao Tu has come today with a presumptuous request. Xiao Tu gritted his teeth, his face slightly cold. Since it's a presumptuous request, there's no need to mention it. I've never liked to help others and make myself suffer. Ling Xiao sneered, and Fu Yunyao almost laughed out loud. This young master was really shameless and arrogant to the extreme. Xiao Tu's presumptuous request was clearly just a polite request, but he had directly shut Xiao Tu's mouth. Young master, I'm curious. Senior brother Xiao, you've always been elusive. Why did you appear below the battle stage today? Ling Xiao suddenly looked at Xiao Tu curiously. The coldness in his eyes gave people endless pressure. Xiao Tu glanced at Fu Yunyao discreetly, then smiled bitterly and sighed. That's right. I did go to the battle stage today for selfish reasons. I wanted to see Qin Fun defeat you, young master. I didn't expect, young master, to be so powerful that I'm afraid. You're quite magnanimous. In fact, Ling Xiao had already guessed what Xiao Tu was thinking. To be honest, there were many people in the myriad Dao demon sect who didn't like him. However, the only one who dared to make a move against him was Qin Fun. However, compared to Zhuge Luyun, Xiao Tu's personality was more to Ling Xiao's liking. Let's talk about your presumptuous request. Ling Xiao crossed his legs, and Fu Yunyao had tactfully walked to the side to make tea for the two of them. Young master, I think you can take me with you to the myriad sect martial competition. A cold look flashed across Xiao Tu's face again. Why? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect Xiao Tu to come to him for this. The myriad sect martial competition would be distributed to the various sects and sacred grounds, but the young master and the chosen would choose who would go. The meaning of this was to be discussed later. However, given Xiao Tu's status in the myriad Dao demon sect, he wouldn't covet the rewards of the martial competition, right? Was it because of that secret realm? I have an enemy, the chosen of the Yuan Yu sacred ground. I swore that I would crush him to death in front of all the forces in the Xingzhou continent. Xiao Tu's eyes were filled with killing intent, and a demonic aura surged around him. Yuan Yu sacred ground? Ling Xiao furrowed his brows. Xiao Tu didn't have any luck, and he was already lucky to be able to come this far. The Yuan Yu sacred ground was also a supreme Taoist orthodoxy in the eastern border of the Xingzhou continent, and its chosen must have luck. In other words, even if Ling Xiao took Xiao Tu to the martial competition, he would still be killed. That's right. The Yuan Yu chosen killed my father and brother, and this hatred is irreconcilable. Young master, as long as you are willing to take me with you, I will be loyal to you. According to the previous years, the myriad Dao demon sect would get 3 spots. Master Ling Xiao would naturally get one, and Fu Yunyao would also get one, given his relationship with Xiao Tuesday. As for the last spot, Xiao Tu was determined to get it. The Yuan Yu sacred ground was a supreme Taoist orthodoxy with an immortal inheritance. When the chosen of the Yuan Yu sacred ground went out, there would definitely be a protector behind him. The myriad sect martial competition might be his only chance to face the Yuan Yu chosen alone. If I remember correctly, the Tian Yuan secret realm will open after the martial competition. With your current strength, you will definitely die if you face the Yuan Yu chosen. Why don't you bear with it for a while, and I will help you kill him after we enter the secret realm. According to the rules of the Myriad Sect martial competition, the participants could choose their own opponent. Those who won 3 rounds first would advance to the next round. The top 100 would represent the eastern border and enter the Tian-Yuan secret realm to fight for the fortune. Logically speaking, although there were many forces in the eastern border, there were only a few that were truly supreme. It would be easy for Xiao Tu to enter the top 100. However, if he faced the Yuan Yu chosen, his chances of winning were not high, and he might even be killed on the spot. I can't wait any longer, and I must kill him in front of everyone. Xiao Tu gritted his teeth, and his whole body was trembling. The hatred of killing his father was irreconcilable. No matter why they became enemies, it was obvious that Xiao Tu had made up his mind to kill him. It's not impossible to take you with me, but I don't trust others. If you want to submit to me, open your mind and let me plant a soul seal on you. Ling Xiao thought for a long time and finally decided to play it safe. The cultivation world was full of danger. If he was not careful, he could be doomed eternally. Moreover, Xiao Tu had come suddenly, and Ling Xiao did not trust him. No matter what he was plotting, as long as he planted a soul seal on him, his life and death would be in Ling Xiao's hands. Okay. Xiao Tu did not hesitate at all. He closed his eyes and opened his mind. He had been cultivating in seclusion all these years, day and night, just for this day. However, his cultivation had gradually fallen into shackles. He was afraid that if he waited any longer, he would be left behind by the Yuan Yu chosen. This Myriad Sect martial competition was his only chance. So decisive? It seems that you really hate the Yuan Yu chosen. Ling Xiao nodded, and a strange light suddenly flashed in his eyes. Xiao Tu only felt his sea of consciousness tremble, and then he regained consciousness. Beep. Congratulations to the host for subduing a soul slave, which suits the style of a villain. The host is rewarded with 3,000 villain points. Chapter 80. The soul assimilation ancient technique was a forbidden technique not only because it could assimilate a person's soul, but also because the formation of the soul seal was extremely ingenious. Even a martial emperor wouldn't be able to detect it when the host was alive. Of course, there were always exceptions. That was why Ling Xiao didn't use the soul seal on Bai Jishi, but used the soul inscription instead. After all, the soul of a monster was different from that of a human. Once it was detected, it would be a disaster for Ling Xiao. After all, his demonic body couldn't withstand attention. You will be my servant in the future. Of course, I won't interfere with your cultivation. If you perform well enough, I might even give you back your freedom. Ling Xiao looked at Xiao Tu coldly. The latter immediately bowed and didn't get up for a long time. Yes, master. Xiao Tu wants nothing but to avenge his father and brother. Here are some third-grade soul-gathering pills. You can try to break through before the Myriad Sect martial meeting. You may leave. Ling Xiao threw a bag of pills to Xiao Tuesday. The latter immediately thanked him and left. From the beginning to the end, Fu Yunyao stood to the side, quietly watching Ling Xiao display his skills without saying a word. However, her pretty face was a little pale. She would be a slave for life after being implanted with the soul seal. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Do you think my methods are too cruel? Ling Xiao picked up the tea on the table and took a sip. I wouldn't dare. Fu Yunyao immediately knelt on the ground and shook her head. You don't have to be so nervous. I don't trust Xiao Tu, but you are different. Ling Xiao reached out and helped Fu Yunyao up from the ground. However, he didn't have the impulse to do so. The fact that he had the demonic body would be exposed sooner or later. At that time, he would be in a situation where heaven and earth couldn't tolerate him. Even if it was the Ling clan and the Danyuan Holy Land, not everyone would stand behind him. Now that he could set up more traps, there would be only benefits and no downside. Besides, Ling Xiao had a feeling that the engagement party in 3 days wouldn't be simple. Maybe something unexpected would happen. He hadn't broken through in a long time. He should take this opportunity to prepare. The goddess of the ethereal Tao Palace. The #1 beauty of the Xingzhou continent, the #1 talent. It was rumored that when Yan Qingyun was born, a 9 heavenly phoenix descended and was willing to protect her. Since such a woman of destiny had been delivered to him, Ling Xiao naturally had no reason to let her run away. Of course, according to the previous plots, such a peerless heavenly woman would never fall in love with a demonic sect's young master or an ancient clan's young master. Most of the time, their hearts would be captured by some stinky idiot. It was just that he didn't know how much luck Ling Xiao would obtain from this stinky D**ck. At this time, Ling Xiao could not help but think about whether or not he should prepare some medicine and do that goddess on the same day. Now that the rice had been cooked, she would be his no matter where she went. As villains, they were naturally duty-bound to do such a crazy thing. You can leave as well. I will return to the clan tomorrow. You should focus on cultivating in the sect for the next few days and prepare for the 1000 sect martial meeting. Oh, that's right. Don't let anyone know about our relationship for now. If anyone asks, just say that I forced you to do it. Ling Xiao said calmly, but Fu Yunyao was slightly stunned. She couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Could it be that the young master is tired of me? Didn't he want me to sleep with him as long as he was in the sect? Why did he draw a line with me this time? Although the young master was much gentler, he didn't seem to need me as much. However, no matter how confused she was, she didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. She could only leave obediently. She was a pawn. Of course, she was more useful in the dark system. After Fu Yunyao walked out of the cave, Ling Xiao immediately called out the system. Owner, Ling Xiao. Identity, young master of the myriad Tao demon sect. Divine constitution, sky demon true body second transformation, forbidden constitution. Cultivation, peak of the Xianqing realm. Spiritual treasures, immemorial demon saber, grade unknown, 8 barren glazed demon subduing tower, divine treasure. Cultivation techniques, myriad Tao demon art, sky demon sutra, sky demon true body, talent, eye of nirvana, talent, ancient soul assimilation technique, forbidden technique. Luck points, 1,600. Villain points, 12,000, 1,600 luck points and 12,000 villain points. Let's see what I can exchange for. Ling Xiao opened the system store and carefully browsed through the items. However, with his current luck points, the spiritual treasures and martial arts techniques that he could exchange for were very limited. They weren't even as precious as what he had. Finally, Ling Xiao's gaze fell on the spiritual beasts column. The path to immortality without a treasure was not complete. Ancestral Dragon Sacred Egg, 100 billion villain point. True Phoenix Sacred Egg, 100 billion villain points. I can even exchange for the Ancestral Dragon Sacred Phoenix. This system is really awesome. It's just that the villain points are a little too high. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. After all, the strongest person in the 1,000 Demons' sacred land was only an azure dragon that contained a trace of the ancestral dragon's bloodline. If he could have a baby ancestral dragon behind him, the entire Xingzhou would probably tremble. Spirit Beast Interface Lucky Draw Event. 10,000 villain points will be used to obtain a random Spirit Beast egg, one time only. On the last page of the Spiritual Beast column, a strange system prompt appeared in front of Ling Xiao's eyes. Lucky Draw Event? As everyone knew, the Lucky Draw Event was completely prepared for the Son of Luck. For a villain like Ling Xiao, he probably wouldn't get anything good even if his family was ruined. However, humans had an inexplicable yearning for such unknown things. Every time after placing a bet, they would feel that they would definitely win. For some reason, Ling Xiao pressed the button for the lucky draw. The wheel began to spin, and spiritual beast eggs jumped in front of him one by one. Ling Xiao's mood became tense. 10,000 villain points. It took him a long time to accumulate that amount. If he used it on cultivation, he could at least break through the threshold of Paoang. Time passed slowly, and finally, the pointer of the wheel stopped on an ancient totem. What is this? Ling Xiao was stunned, and he saw that the totem was in the shape of some strange clouds. Is this sucking air? 10,000 villain points. At this moment, Ling Xiao's heart was dripping blood. You can give me a F***kingdog, but what do you mean by sucking air? However, just as Ling Xiao's voice fell, a pitch-black beast egg suddenly appeared in front of him. There were faint cloud-like demonic patterns flickering on it, as if it contained endless fierce flames. This aura was a little awesome. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly, and he gently stroked it. A burst of joy suddenly came from the beast egg. It seems that it will take some time to hatch. Don't worry, we will meet soon. The disappointment in Ling Xiao's heart was swept away. Although he could not be sure what was in the beast egg, judging from the aura, it was quite compatible with his villain setting. In the 8 Baron Demon Suppression Tower, Ling Xiao's figure flashed. He still remembered the promise he made with the mysterious girl. Although he was instinctively afraid of the girl's identity, he felt a little uneasy with such a strange creature by his side. Moreover, the demonic aura in the tower was abundant, and it was the best place to put the beast egg to hatch. Buzz. The space buzzed, and Mi Yong's figure instantly appeared beside Ling Xiao. Master. Ling Xiao nodded, and with a wave of his hand, the beast egg instantly appeared in the ancient tower. What is this? At this moment, in the distant darkness, there was a sudden exclamation of surprise. The expressions on Ling Xiao and Mi Yong's faces instantly froze. She's here. She's here. She had walked over without a sound. Chapter 81. Just like last time, even with Ling Xiao's divine soul, he still couldn't sense a trace of the girl's aura. Even as the owner of the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda, Ling Xiao didn't notice how she appeared next to him. Mi Yong's eyes were also filled with shock. Demonic chi was rolling all over his body as if he was facing a great enemy. Master. Who is she? Damn it, if you knew, why would I ask you last time? Why did you take so long to come? Didn't you say you wanted to play with me? In the darkness, the girl with a fair and delicate face slowly walked over. She looked up at Ling Xiao with a sorrowful expression. I have a lot of things to do recently. Shouldn't you fulfill your promise and tell me who you are? A trace of demonic chi quietly rippled around Ling Xiao's body. He didn't feel any hostility from this mysterious little girl. But Ling Xiao didn't dare to be careless. This is the aura. It's so familiar. The girl in black suddenly pounced on Ling Xiao, scaring him so much that he almost used his demonic body to kill her. But what surprised Ling Xiao was that the girl only jumped into his arms and took a deep breath of his aura. Demonic chi? Is it the demonic chi on me that attracted her? Ling Xiao was suddenly a little confused. Where did this girl come from? Why was she greedy for his demonic chi? Your aura is the same as the bone in my house. Your house? Bone? Ling Xiao felt the hairs on his body stand on end. Who would put a bone in their house? And a bone that emitted demonic chi? Where is your house? Ling Xiao asked tentatively. Yes, it's on the 9th floor of the pagoda. Boom! Ling Xiao's figure instantly turned into a demonic body. The supreme demonic saber in his hand emitted a monstrous light, as if he was facing a great enemy. The 9th floor. This cute girl was actually the demonic creature suppressed on the 9th floor of the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda. In an instant, Ling Xiao felt that his back was drenched in cold sweat. Even with Mi Yong's cultivation, he could only be suppressed on the 1st level. One could only imagine how ferocious and terrifying the demonic creatures above the 9th floor were. Wow, it's exactly the same. However, the little girl was not afraid at all. Instead, she buried her face in Ling Zhao's chest. What do you mean exactly the same? Who are you? Ling Zhao's body tensed up, and the demonic saber in his hand quietly moved towards the girl's neck. As long as she dared to make the slightest move, Ling Zhao would not hesitate to kill her. Your aura is exactly the same as that Bones. The girl in black blinked her big innocent eyes and looked curiously at Ling Zhao. Only then did the latter notice that there was a beautiful mole at the corner of her mouth, which added a hint of playfulness. My aura is exactly the same as that bone? Ling Zhao was stunned for a moment, then seemed to think of something. Is it this kind of aura? Ling Zhao immediately used the 10,000 demonic arts, and wisps of black demonic aura wrapped around him. However, the girl in black shook her head. It's not this kind. It's not? Could it be? Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed, and demonic aura surged from his body. The aura of the sky demon's true body was fully revealed. Yes, it's this kind. The girl was very excited, and she nestled in Ling Zhao's arms like a kitten. The demonic aura of the sky demon's true body is the same as that of the bone on the 9th floor of the Soul Pagoda? Ling Zhao's mind raced, and he suddenly had some guesses. Perhaps the 8 desolation glazed Soul Pagoda did not only seal the great demon. In other words, the reason why the pagoda owner sealed the demon was the same as why he joined the 10,000 demonic arts sect. It was all to conceal the aura of the sky demon's true body. If that was the case, then who was this girl? Also, who sealed a piece of the sky demon's skeleton here? Why did he do that? Ling Zhao frowned. Clearly, with his current cultivation level, it was still far from the time to explore these ancient secrets. However, he had to figure out the girl's background. You mean to say that you were sealed on the 9th floor of the pagoda with that demon bone? Ling Zhao probed, but the girl had already left his arms and landed in front of the spirit beast egg. This little thing's aura is somewhat familiar. Who exactly are you? I already said that I don't know who I am. Anyway, I've been with that piece of bone since I was born. The girl glared at Ling Zhao impatiently. Instantly, Ling Zhao felt the demonic aura around his body tremble, and there were faint signs of it dissipating. This, Ling Zhao was shocked. Ever since he came to this world, this was the first time he felt such absolute suppression. Even in front of the enemy of 10,000 people and his mother, he didn't feel as powerless as he did just now. But clearly, this girl didn't have the slightest fluctuation of spiritual energy. She was born in this glazed pagoda? This probably meant that this girl wasn't sealed here by the pagoda's owner. At the same time, she shouldn't be a living creature. Then, there was only one answer. Was she a product of the demon Bone's intelligence? No wonder she felt so familiar with his aura. Since that was the case, if he swallowed her, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a faint light. But when he thought of the girl's powerful gaze just now, Ling Zhao's thoughts were instantly cut off. Better wait a little longer. Although Ling Zhao couldn't feel her aura fluctuation, it was obvious that if she was really a product of the sky demon's skeleton, she would definitely be a tough nut to crack. It was hard to say whether Ling Zhao could swallow her or not. If he angered her, she might even swallow him. You don't have a name yet, right? Look, we know each other now. My name is Ling Zhao. Do you want me to give you a name? How about teasing me? Ling Zhao suddenly remembered a cat he had raised in the past, and an evil smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I have a name. The black-clothed girl stared at the spirit beast egg without looking back, as if she was particularly interested in the thing inside. Then what's your name? Ling Zhao was stunned. This girl didn't even know who she was, but she actually had a name? Who gave her a name? My name is Feng Ling. Feng Ling? Little Feng Ling? That's a good name. Who gave you that name? Ling Zhao nodded. This name was quite suitable for this black-clothed girl's temperament. She was playful, cute, and a little cold. It's none of your business. The black-clothed girl rolled her eyes at Ling Xiao in annoyance, and suddenly stretched. Haha, it's time to sleep. I'm going home. Let's play next time. Little Feng Ling, wait a minute. Do you want to bring me to your house? Ling Xiao's face was filled with eagerness. All his previous guesses were just his imagination. If he wanted to know the origin of this girl, the best way was to go to the 9th floor of the ancient pagoda and see the demon bone with his own eyes. Your cultivation is too low. Wait until you're a little stronger. With that, Feng Ling took a step forward and instantly disappeared. Chapter 82. My cultivation is too low? The smile on Ling Xiao's face gradually disappeared, replaced by a serious expression. Mi Yong, have you seen her before? Beside him, the demonic ape Mi Yong also looked shocked, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. My lord, I haven't. Mi Yong shook his head. He did not doubt Feng Ling's words at all. She must be a great demon from the top level. Just now, a wisp of energy from her body had almost made him lose his mind. Did you feel it? Ling Xiao sighed. Although he did not want to admit it in front of Mi Yong, Feng Ling had an aura that could suppress him. But the problem now was how he was going to deal with this girl with a mysterious background. Once she grew up, wouldn't Ling Xiao's identity become awkward? Killing her seemed to be a little risky. Moreover, that girl looked harmless to humans and animals. She was very cute. If he did not kill her, Ling Xiao would feel uneasy. I felt it, my lord. The aura from that girl seems to have a strong suppressive effect on demonic aura. Mi Yong's heart palpitated. It was not suppressive, it was completely suppressing. Mi Yong even had a vague thought that Feng Ling could kill him at any time if she wanted to. What secrets are hidden above the 9th level? Ling Xiao sighed and glanced at the spirit beast egg at the side. I'll leave this spirit beast egg here for now. Look after it for me. Yes, my lord. Mi Yong bowed and Ling Xiao's figure disappeared. As expected, this 8 glazed pagoda was not simple. Moreover, the path that Yi Fan had taken previously showed signs of turning into a demon. In the end, this demonic bone might be the opportunity for him to achieve the supreme demonic path. Ling Xiao had to be cautious about something that belonged to the Son of Destiny. It was just like when he had snatched the supreme demonic saber in the ancient era's ruins. He had almost died. If not for the fact that he was wearing a Dao artifact, the demonic armor, Ling Xiao might not have been able to withstand an all-out attack from an ancient expert. However, he did not know what kind of danger or surprise wind chimes would bring him this time. Xingzhou's northern border. Similar to the Eastern Barren Territory, this was a forbidden land for the human race. The various demon clans had taken up residence here, forming a force that occupied the largest forest and river in the Xingzhou continent. Although the Xingzhou was only a single province, it was divided into 4 regions. The eastern and western borders were the orthodoxies of the human race. The various sects and aristocratic families were rooted in it, and the situation was complicated as they fought endlessly. The northern border was where the 10,000 demonic Holy Land was located. Although they appeared to be united, there were already undercurrents surging. As for the southern border, it was known as the Endless Sea. Among them, there were many sea demons, and the flood dragon human was the king. The center of the 4 borders was the most prosperous place in the Xingzhou continent. And the nominal ruler of the 4 borders, the Holy Sect, was born here. At this moment, in a mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles in the northern frontier. A thin and small figure stood on the peak of a mountain, looking up into the sky. Above her was a galaxy of stars, but there was a hint of loneliness in the girl's eyes. Ever since Bai Jishi returned to the Xingzhou continent, she had been grounded in Green Hill by the Fox Empress. Although she was proficient in void techniques, the Fox Empress was clearly furious this time and did not allow her to step out of Green Hill. What happened in the Eastern Barren Territory had been reported by the demon god Mountain Master. Although the identity of the white-robed swordsman had yet to be confirmed, the name Ling Xiao had infuriated the Fox Empress. In particular, Bai Jishi had dared to lead the other demon clans to suppress Ling Xiao, which made the Thousand Demons Sacred Grounds Demon King even more furious. Bai Jishi had never left the northern frontier, but who was the nine-tailed Fox Empress? She was one of the 9 demon kings. How could she not know the identity of this young man in the Eastern Barren Territory? He was the eldest son of the Ling family, the only son of Sacred Master Dan Yuan, and the young master of the Thousand Dao demon sect. Regardless of his identity, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan did not dare to provoke him. Moreover, it was rumored that Ling Xiao was vicious and merciless, and his demonic techniques were ferocious. Over the years, countless Xingzhou prodigies had died at his hands. Although the Heavenly Fox clan was not weak, they only had 2 martial emperors. Ling people alone had 3 martial emperors and 10 martial emperors. In the entire Xingzhou, there were no more than 5 forces who dared to openly challenge the Ling people. Moreover, the Nine-Tailed Fox Empress had received news that the goddess of the Eastern Barren Territory's most mysterious sect, the Ethereal Dao Palace, was about to be engaged to Ling Xiao. In this way, Ling Xiao had 4 supreme inheritances behind him. Fortunately, the Nine-Tailed Fox Empress had learned from the lower realm's great demons that Ling Xiao was not injured. Instead, he had suddenly escaped and disappeared without a trace. Even so, the entire Green Hill was filled with an extremely tense and oppressive atmosphere over the past few days. This kind of atmosphere had not appeared in Green Hill for many years. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan rarely took the initiative to make enemies, and their clansmen almost never left Green Hill. They were considered neutral demon clans. However, this time, because of Bai Jishi's mischief, the entire Heavenly Fox clan had almost fallen into eternal damnation. How could the Fox Empress not be furious? Jishi, so you're here? A kind and old voice suddenly came from the distant sky. Immediately, an old woman in linen clothes appeared behind Bai Jishi. Ancestor Bai Qian, you're here. Bai Jishi put away the melancholy on her little face, turned around, and bowed to the old woman with 2 ears and 9 tails. The old woman smiled gently. She held a peach-wood walking stick in her hand and staggered in front of Bai Jishi. Although she looked old, no one in the 10,000 demons' sacred land dared to be disrespectful when Bai Qian's name was mentioned. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan had 2 martial emperors. The Fox Empress was one of them, and the other was Ancestor Bai Qian. It's so late. Why aren't you sleeping? Are you admiring the moon here? Ancestor Bai Qian reached out and patted Bai Jishi's little head. She was known as the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's strongest talent, so she was naturally doted on by all the powerhouses in the clan. Not only was Bai Qian the ancestor of Bai Jishi's lineage, but he was also half her master. What's wrong? Are you still angry about being grounded? Look, what did I bring for you? Ancestor Bai Qian took out a spirit fruit that shone with a strange color. Suddenly, a fragrance filled the air, causing the spiritual energy in one's body to buzz uncontrollably. Ancestor Bai Jishi smiled bitterly. The 7-colored dragon incense fruit was indeed her favorite spirit fruit, but today she did not have much of an appetite. Io, what's wrong with my little Jishi? Why did you come back so different after going out to play? Tell me, what are you worried about? A trace of surprise flashed in Bai Qian's old eyes. He smiled and pulled Bai Jishi into his arms. Ancestor, did you find out about the thing I asked you to find out? Bai Jishi playfully rubbed against the ancestor's arm and looked up at him expectantly. You mean the young master of the Ling family, Ling Xiao? I found out. Ancestor Bai Qian nodded. His eyes were inexplicably serious. He has indeed returned to the Xingzhou continent, and the rumors are true. He is domineering, cruel, and easily kills people. Also, he is a little lecherous. It is said that he often has a group of beautiful women around him. Even among the human race, his reputation is extremely bad. Ancestor, that's not what I asked. Then what are you asking about? Ancestor Bai Qian was stunned. He lowered his head and looked at Bai Jishi. At this moment, a blush seemed to flash across the girl's face. After stammering for a while, she opened her mouth and said, Is he really engaged to the goddess of the ethereal Tao Palace? Chapter 83. Engagement. Bai Qian looked at Bai Jishi in disbelief. Especially when she saw the shy look on the girl's face, she couldn't help but tremble. It seems that there is such a thing. It should be in the next 2 days. A trace of disappointment flashed across Bai Jishi's face. Since returning to Green Hill, she had asked the Fox Empress and the Ancestor to carefully check her mind. There were no signs of a soul imprint being planted. But Bai Jishi still couldn't remember where the swordsman who had chased after her went. The only thing she remembered was that in her most desperate moment, a figure had stood in front of her. The smile on his face was very clean, brighter than the stars tonight. She wasn't sure if that figure was Ling Xiao, but for some reason she had been thinking about him these days. She missed him. She still missed him. Bai Jishi was going crazy. She wanted to run to the eastern border and ask Ling Xiao about it. However, the Fox Empress forbade her from leaving and strictly ordered her to take half a step out of Qingqiu. Of course, since returning to Xingzhou, she hadn't mentioned Yi Fan's name again. After all, what happened back then was a big taboo for the Nine-Tailed clan. She didn't want to provoke the Fox Empress again. Jishi, you don't have to worry too much. Although Ling Xiao has a strong background, the Heavenly Fox clan is one of the 9 royal clans of the Thousand Demons Holy Land. You may have some friction, but Ling people shouldn't make a big fuss over it. Ancestor Bai Qian was curious why this girl was so concerned about Ling Xiao's marriage. But Bai Jishi was only 90 years old, which was equivalent to a 14-year-old human. Her body hadn't even developed yet. The ancestor of the Fox clan would never have thought that she would fall in love with someone. Yes, he won't. Bai Jishi was obviously a little absent-minded. Her little mind was filled with the news of Ling Xiao's engagement with the goddess of the Tao Palace. What should I do? Should I go and find him? But if he doesn't like me, what's the use of me going? Ancestor, is it true that the Nine-Tailed clan can't marry a human? Bai Jishi suddenly thought of something. She looked up at Ancestor Bai Qian and asked softly. Of course. If it weren't for the human race, our demon race would have been the ruler of this region. Later on, the human race grew stronger and hunted our experts everywhere. We had no choice but to retreat to the northern frontier and seek survival together. Ancestor Bai Qian's face darkened. There were many grievances between the human race and the demon race. It was not something that could be explained in a few words. But now, the human race was the master of the world, and geniuses came out in large numbers. On the other hand, the stronger the bloodline of the Yao, the harder it was for them to produce offspring. This was how the gap between the two clans was widened. But back then, the first princess— Shut up! Before Bai Jishi's voice fell, old ancestor Bai Qian's body suddenly surged with a wisp of power, directly interrupting her. Don't ever mention that name again. Jishi, you need to know that the hope of our clan is now all on you. Marriage and love are nothing in the path of cultivation. Only when you are strong enough can you protect everything that you want to protect. After saying that, Bai Qian waved his hand, and a spiritual light instantly fell and enveloped Bai Jishi. Ancestor, I have sealed your cultivation. For the next few days you can stay in Qingqiu and calm your heart. Although Ancestor Bai Qian did not know what the girl in front of him was thinking, but looking at her eyes, it was obvious that she was longing for the outside world. Now that the world was in chaos, many people had noticed Bai Jishi's talent. Although the assassination this time was daunting, no one could guarantee that she would be so lucky next time. The best way was to let her stay in the clan and cultivate until she had enough strength to protect herself. Ancestor! Ancestor, let me go! Sob, sob, sob. How can I cultivate like this, ancestor? Baijishi suddenly burst into tears. She had tried this trick many times before. But this time, the ancestor did not pay attention to her. Instead, he tore open the space and disappeared. Ancestor! Baijishi shouted, and tears actually appeared in her eyes. Why were humans and demons different? She suddenly remembered that when she was a child, she was cultivating in the mountains. An old monk who traveled to Qingqiu once smiled and said to her, "Girl, you were born with good luck. In the future, you will have a smooth path to immortality and a happy marriage." Now it seemed that she did not even have the right to choose to love someone. How could she have a happy marriage? It turned out that the old monk was lying to her. Even the Buddha could lie. Baijishi looked into the distance. Unknowingly, her eyes were wet with tears. At the end of her sight, it was the clouds and the mountains. It was a figure that she wanted to see but did not dare to see. In the ancient temple, there were green candles and Buddhist chants. Buddha said that everything in the world is empty, but karma is not empty. Buddha said that there were thousands of emotions, but the most difficult to understand was love. Buddha said to give up the falsehood, abstain from the 7 emotions and 6 desires, convert to the Dharma and convert to the heart. If one day I can go to your side, whether you are a Buddha or a demon, a Dharma or a precept, I am willing to convert to you. Ninth princess, what's wrong? Behind Baijishi, 2 little fox girls of similar age suddenly came up. At this time, they were blinking their big eyes and looking at her curiously. Ah Yun, when did you come? Baijishi's small face froze. She quickly wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. We have been here for a while. Miss, who are you thinking about? Why are you so lost in thought? The 2 fox girls suddenly covered their mouths and chuckled. There was some curiosity in their eyes. Ah Yun, do you think he will miss me? Baijishi did not hide the yearning in her heart. Instead, she asked in a melancholy tone. Oh, 9th princess, you have someone you like? Ha! Forget it, I won't talk to you any more. Baijishi snorted coldly and turned to walk down the mountain. 9th princess, wait for me. You haven't told me which clan's young master you like. Great Demon Sect, Mountain Peak Residence. Achoo! Ling Xiao sat cross-legged on the bed and sneezed for no reason. Damn, who is scolding me again? For the past 2 days, he had been feeling uneasy. It was as if something big was about to happen around him. I should go back to the clan tomorrow. This time, I should let those old things relax and confirm my identity as the successor of the Ling people. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed a trace of gloominess. He raised his head and looked at the night sky outside the residence. Unknowingly, he had been in this world for some time. From the initial excitement and novelty to the current calmness, Ling Xiao inexplicably felt a little tired. Although the path to immortality was full of scenery and magnificent mountains and rivers, it was really full of danger. Especially for a villain, every step he took had to be carefully considered. Otherwise, if he was not careful, he was afraid that he would be trampled to death. Forget it, it is useless to think too much. I should step into the Pawang state as soon as possible. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. He did not know who affected his mind, but he always felt a little annoyed. Ling Xiao took out a bottle of elixir from his cosmos sack and swallowed it. Then, he closed his eyes again and sank into cultivation. Although this kind of traditional cultivation method was a little slow, it was better than nothing. In particular, the elixirs given by the moon of Xianyuan were all 4th grade and above. In the outside world they were rare treasures. Since that was the case, he would reluctantly eat a few of them. Not to mention, the taste was not bad. It was crispy. Chapter 84. The next day, in the sky above the universal demon sect, a demonic aura spread for thousands of miles. Many disciples who woke up early in the morning looked up at the 9 black dragons whizzing by with eyes full of worship. It's the young master's 9-dragon golden carriage. Where is the young master going? The battle between Ling Xiao and Qin Fun yesterday had already spread throughout the demon sect. Even the new outer disciples knew that Master Ling Xiao had unparalleled demonic power. In particular, he had dared to kill Qin Fun in front of the Great Elder. Many people felt the sky demon's tyrannical aura. His invincible immortal aura could crush the world. Now, the entire Myriad Dao demon sect was united and saw young Master Ling Xiao as a role model for the immortal Dao. Of course, except for Zhuge Luyun, who had already escaped from the sect. Have you heard? Recently, there have been some strange things happening in the Fire Granite Valley. What strange things? I don't know. It seems that people are always mysteriously disappearing. There's such a thing? No one went to investigate? Who dares? There's a great danger in the mountain. Maybe, be careful with your words. In the northern border of the Xingzhou continent, in an ancient mountain city thousands of miles away from the universal demon sect, a handsome young man dressed in white was sitting in front of a tea shop. He was seriously sipping tea from a cup. Fire Granite Valley? It seems that the undying heart flame should be here. The young man smiled and looked up at the people who were talking. He got up and walked over. Everyone, may I know who the great danger you're talking about is? The young man was naturally Lin Shi, who had followed Nian Qingyun here. However, Nian Qingyun had deliberately avoided him and hadn't appeared in the past few days. Lin Shi asked around and found out where the Ling people were. He had come all the way from the ethereal palace to the Sunset Mountain City. The city was located in the Sunset Mountain Range, adjacent to the sacred realm of the Ling people. More importantly, the undying heart flame, the heaven and earth spirit fire he had been looking for, seemed to be in the Sunset Mountain Range. Wasn't this just a coincidence? Originally, he had only come here to tell all the forces in the eastern border that only he, Lin Shi, was worthy of Nian Qingyun. Who would have thought that there would be an unexpected gain? As long as he could merge with the spiritual fire of heaven and earth, his cultivation would completely enter the Paong state. When that happened, he would surely be the leader of the younger generation in the Xingzhou continent. Ancient race young masters? Unparalleled inheritances? All of them would be trampled beneath his feet. What's wrong with a small aristocratic family? So what if his talent was poor? Only heaven's favorites who have been through endless battles can stand on top of the world. Moreover, he still hadn't found Ling Er, and he had no idea where to start in the vast Xingzhou continent. But as long as he accumulated enough reputation, she would definitely come looking for him when she heard about it, right? A trace of loneliness flashed through Lin Shi's eyes. Ever since he was born, the Lin family had been in decline. His father, Lin Dong, was originally a famous prodigy of the eastern border. However, he was harmed by a scoundrel and eventually became a cripple. He led his clansmen and migrated to a small border city. Ling Er was not his biological sister, but an orphan adopted by Lin Dong on the street. Originally, the Lin family's life was peaceful and comfortable. However, on Lin Shi's 14th birthday, the enemy who framed his father came looking for him and swore to kill him. Lin Dong sent Lin Shi and Ling Er away that night, but they were pursued on the way. In the end, the three of them were separated and there was no news of them. Lin Shi fell off a cliff when he was escaping and accidentally picked up a ring. But who would have thought that the ring hid the remnant soul of a peerless expert? According to Elder Ling, he had reached the venerable state when he was alive and was known as the Heavenly Flame Venerable. Of course, Lin Shi didn't completely believe him. After all, the strongest in the Xingzhou continent were only at the Emperor state. The Venerable state had long been a legend. But he couldn't deny that the cultivation method that Elder Ling had passed on to him was indeed miraculous and terrifying. It could increase one's cultivation by merging with the spiritual fire of heaven and earth. Although the process was extremely dangerous, his battle strength could be said to be at the top of his peers. Originally, Lin Shi's talent wasn't considered monstrous. However, ever since he cultivated the blazing scripture, he had faintly touched a trace of Tao law power. What kind of terrifying talent was this? How many people in the Xingzhou continent could comprehend the great Tao at the profound clear stage? Father, no matter where you are, I will find you. Wait for me, wait for my name, Lin Shi, to resound throughout the Xingzhou continent. That will be the day we reunite. Who are you? At the table next to him, several handsome young men frowned and looked Lin Shi up and down warily. My name is Lin Shi, and I come from the border city of the eastern border. Everyone, who is the hidden almighty you mentioned just now? Is he very powerful? Lin Shi wanted to enter the mountain to search for the fire, so he naturally had to understand the situation in the mountain. The undying heart flame was a terrifying existence ranked 7th on the heaven and earth spirit fire list. Once such a spirit fire appeared, it would inevitably attract some powerful experts to fight over it. Although Lin Shi had many trump cards, he still had no chance of winning against those old monsters. Moreover, the day after tomorrow was the day of Ling Xiao and Yan Qingyun's engagement. Ling people would definitely send a large number of experts to the Xingzhou continent. He had to make some preparations in advance. Once the matter of Ling people was resolved, he would immediately find the fire and leave. Of course he's powerful. That person's true form is a 1,000-year-old firewolf, and his cultivation has long reached the peak of the Divine Lord realm. Even God Kings don't dare to provoke him. The young men looked at Lin Shi as if they were looking at a country bumpkin. I see. Thank you. A Divine Lord expert's battle strength was close to that of a God King. It was indeed troublesome. However, since the firewolf was hidden here, it wasn't all bad for Lin Shi. At the very least, no one would go to the secret realm where the undying heart flame was hidden for the time being. If he didn't cultivate the blazing scripture and have an instinct for heaven and earth spirit fire, he wouldn't have been able to sense the spirit fire's aura. As for those people who had mysteriously disappeared, Lin Shi guessed that they were most likely burned to ashes by the strange heart flame. Ling Xiao, the day after tomorrow, I will let the entire Xingzhou continent know that you, a young master of the ancient clan, are nothing in my eyes. Nian Qingyun, you are mine. With that, Lin Shi immediately walked toward the setting sun mountain range. I sense a very familiar aura in the mountain range. Elder Ling's voice suddenly came from the ring. Although this sovereign realm expert was no longer as powerful as he used to be, his spirit had recovered a lot over the past few years under Lin Shi's wholehearted care. Moreover, he cultivated the blazing scripture and was extremely familiar with all kinds of fire auras in the world. A familiar aura. Elder Ling, is it the undying heart flame? Lin Shi felt his breathing become hurried. Although he didn't have enough time to fuse with the spirit fire, how many people in the Xingzhou continent could fuse with the spirit fire? It's not the spirit fire's aura. This aura belongs to the law spirit fruit. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.